And now I'm going to broadcast. So welcome everybody out there in the general public. My name is Andy Port. I'm the Director of Planning and Development. I'm acting as the technical moderator for tonight's Conservation Commission meeting. I'll leave the rest of the meeting to the chair and staff, Julie Govertson, for the running of the meeting, but I'll be here to help out. Just wanted to let folks know that there is the ability to speak during public comment if folks use the raise hand feature in Zoom. The chair or I as moderator will allow you to speak at the times that are allotted for each application or project on the agenda. There is an opportunity to do that, and we'll do that at the appropriate times during the meeting. For the rest of the meeting, we'll be displaying the graphics and so forth on the screen. The same thing goes with the applicants. When the applicants get to their portion of the meeting, we'll be unmuting you so that you can speak and make your presentations as well. So with that, I'll pass back to the chair.
Okay, let's bring this meeting to order. It's the Newburyport Conservation Commission, May 5th, 2020. And we're doing this through Zoom webinar, and this meeting is being recorded. First item on the agenda are the approval of the meeting minutes. First one is February 18th, 2020. I have a question about that. I just need some clarification for the National Grid item. I'm confused as to commission members voted to accept the changes but did not formally approve the minor modifications because the applicant had not requested it. And then Steve Moore moved to approve the minor modifications, and Doug Muir seconded. I need a little clarification on that.
Maybe what happened was they hadn't, when Gretchen was taking the notes, they hadn't yet requested the minor modification, and then they did, and then you all made the motion and voted. Is that a possibility?
Was that it, Gretchen?
I'm thinking that that it hadn't been requested, but the approval was for the concept. So that then when they did request it, it would be ready to go because you were okay with everything?
Okay. However, they did actually, they had requested it in writing, and because I
Okay.
issued the actual minor modification way back, after that meeting. So there's something a little bit confusing in here, but I think the end result is the same, which is that it was approved. There was a movement and to approve the minor modification. It was seconded and approved, and I eventually issued it.
So I'll just fix it.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else?
I got nothing.
Okay.
No. All set here.
And get a motion?
Motion to approve the February 18th meeting minutes. Second.
Okay, roll call. Steve Moore,
Yes.
Dan Warshall,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Next item are the April 7th, 2020 minutes, and I have one issue with it. In enforcement, 9 don't run. I had recused myself, but I'm listed as voting to approve it.
Oh, sorry.
So it would be a 5-0 vote, and my name is
I'll fix it.
out of there. Anybody got anything else?
I don't have anything.
No.
Okay, get a motion.
Motion to approve the April 7th meeting minutes. Second.
All right, roll call. Steve Moore,
Yes.
Dan Warshall,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Okay, on to old new business. Julie, do we have any Plum Island updates?
Well, there's always some Plum Island updates. Right now, I guess the update would be that a significant amount of damage was done to the dunes at 73rd and 75th Street along Reservation Terrace. There was flooding, a significant amount of flooding in the streets because of overwash from extreme high tides and storms. A lot of sand in the streets and up against people's houses. It still is kind of a mess out there. But DPS cleared the roadways and helped clear people's driveways. They put the sand right back onto the adjacent dune where it had come from. They didn't do anything beyond that. And now Mayor's office is working closely with Senator Tarr, DiZoglio, Mira, and some others to work with the state, try and get some funding for any kind of project that will help mitigate additional damage out there. This for the rest of this season and then also for next year. So that where that stands, I don't know. We'll have to get an update from the mayor maybe this week or next. But that's the situation with the dunes on Reservation Terrace. I did also communicate with DCR today about the Moby mats and deploying the Moby mats for people to get out to the beach, because despite all of this damage, everyone still wants to get out onto the beach and cross the dunes and get where they want to go. So DCR, who usually rolls out those mats around May 15th, apparently they have been told to postpone that. And they haven't been given any guidance on when they will be sent out to do it. And I don't know whether that's because of the coronavirus or for other reasons related to the situation out on the dunes. I don't know, but that's the status of the Moby mats. And otherwise, I don't have many updates because we have not had an MRBA meeting in quite a while. And that's about it for right now.
Okay.
I believe there's a 10-foot tide this weekend and the chance of a storm.
Yeah, that's not a good thing. So, especially now that's high tide, there's really no dune left in this small area between 73rd and 75th. So really the high tide is coming right up to the edge of the street. And then it just has a short way to go to wash over into the roadway. So we'll have to just wait and see what happens, but there's not a lot that we can do about it at this point. It's just gonna have to be damage control.
Yeah, till MEMA gets us some money for sand. That's pretty much where we are, I guess.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
about right.
All right, next item is Jerry Mullins, the Gloria Brownhart Bike Trail upgrades. That we're gonna continue to the next meeting. We sent information, or we sent the request to Jerry to remove a bridge that was illegally put over the little river there, and get some information back about tree cutting. And he sent that back to us and said that he would have the bridge out of there by the next meeting. So I guess we will see how that goes, so we can table that until the next meeting. Next, we'll head on to a certificates compliance, etc. First item is Low Street redevelopment, 251 Low Street, request for an ORAD extension, order of resource area delineation. We have any, someone going to discuss that?
Yep. So who we have the applicant, I guess, is just Rich Kirby at this point, or?
Yes, yep.
Okay. So I've just allowed Rich to unmute and speak.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm Rich Kirby from LEC Environmental Consultants, and we were retained by Low Street Development to extend an ORAD for a site at 251 Low Street. This was delineated back presumably around 2014. That's when the original ORAD was issued. It was extended once in 2017, and we were asked to get another extension. So what we did was we went out to the site and had all the wetland flags reestablished in the field by instrument survey via the Warren Cameron Group. They went out and relocated everything. We reviewed it and made some minor changes. This is the plan that was submitted with the request for extension, and it includes our edits. And earlier today, I had emailed Julia a plan that sort of overlays what was originally approved with the changes that we made, and that with some red lines. Julia, do you have that plan?
I do. I sent that, Andy, if you didn't get that, I sent it to you today, and to the commission, recommending it be the plan that we look at during the meeting. If you didn't get it, we just recently got it, you can let me share my screen, and I have a copy of this plan that shows the new delineation changes against the old delineation. It makes it easier to see what we're talking about for modifications.
Yeah, so I didn't see that file today, so I'm just
Okay.
gonna let you be the host for a second.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
While you're doing that, Andy, can you promote Paul to a panelist? He's in the attendees list.
Yes, actually, I did do that a moment ago to allow him to talk. He should be able to say hello now and unmute himself if he's.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yes, the screen is very different from yesterday.
Yeah. All right, can you all see this screen that I am sharing with you now? The plan that shows in red,
Yes.
the new flags.
Yes.
Yeah, the red lines basically represent the changes that we made. We moved the line up in a couple of places. For example, A16, which I don't know if you could move your cursor by A16 right there. We moved that flag up a little bit just to reflect the existing topography and the soils and vegetation that were on the ground. We eliminated a couple of flags. Oh, that's all right.
Got that? There we go.
We eliminated a couple of flags that resulted in the wetland being larger. We did scale back the delineation in a couple of places. The first one is the stormwater pond that collects runoff from a catch basin off the back left or southeast corner of the parking lot. There's a riser pipe in the middle of it. There's a riprap overflow swale, clearly a constructed stormwater pond, and it would not be jurisdictional under the Act or your bylaw. Your bylaw specifically excludes stormwater ponds. So we removed that B series wetland from the delineation, and the plan just shows the stormwater pond. It doesn't affect jurisdiction too much. Still, plenty of buffer zone on the property. And then you can see to the right of the stormwater pond, or to the would be the northeast, we tightened up the delineation a bit over there and made the line follow the slope, the topographic slope that's observable in the field. So really, all in all, just some minor modifications to tighten up the line and make sure it's as accurate as possible. And we prepared a report that describes what we saw, included some photographs of existing site conditions, and we can answer any questions that the commission or Julia have at this point.
Those red lines, that's the extent of it. I mean, it looks very minor from what I can see. Nothing else besides what you just described with the pond?
That's correct. Just the red lines that you see on the plan, those represent the changes. And other than removing the stormwater pond from the delineation and a minor modification to the northeast of that, the rest of the changes essentially made the wetland a bit bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else got any questions or comments?
I'll just quickly explain why they went out to do this. For those who don't know, they originally just submitted a request for an extension of the ORAD. This would have been the second extension of the ORAD, and it's been more than 5 years since the original delineation was done. So typically we don't want to use a delineation that's more than 5 years old. So I said this would need to be redelineated, but instead of, because it's still an open ORAD, it hasn't expired per se, instead of having them close the whole thing out, refile a brand new submission with all that additional paperwork. We have not done this before, but apparently it's something standard practice to just modify an existing ORAD and issue the extension at the same time. So that's why we had them go out and redelineate, essentially make sure that things were in the right place. They did make the few changes, and now it can be extended with these modifications.
All right, that sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Julia, this is Andy. I just wanted to note that we have Scott Cameron's hand raised in the audience. I'm not sure if he's speaking for this application or not.
Yeah, Scott was the surveyor who reestablished the flag, so he may have something to add.
Yeah. So Julia, you just want to unmute him.
Okay, so now let's see. I gotta go
Yeah, if
back
you
to
just right click on his name.
Yep. Here we go. Hey, Scott. I think I think I unmuted you.
Yep. So Scott, you should be able to speak now.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Perfect. Good evening. I'm glad this Zoom doesn't have the video feed, because I haven't shaved in about 2 months now. So I don't think I'm the only one. I just wanted to note, thanks for having this tonight. We did go out and instrument survey, stake out all the original flags. So they're on the ground, they're all freshened up, and that was what Rich used to go through and check everything. That was based on the original approved ORAD line. So I just wanted to add that bit of information.
Okay. You have anything else?
That's it.
All right. What do we want to do?
I'll make a motion to approve the ORAD extension request.
Second.
Okay, roll call. Paul Healy,
Yes.
Steve Moore,
Yes.
Dan Warshaw,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Could you also all just could somebody make a motion to approve the revised delineation for this ORAD request?
Yeah, so moved.
Second.
Okay, Paul Healy,
Yes.
Steve Moore,
Yes.
Dan Warshaw,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well.
All right, thanks very much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, be well.
Thank you.
All right, next item, Scott Harrington, 101 North Reservation Terrace, request for a certificate of compliance.
Okay, Andy, would you like, I'll stop sharing this if you want to move on with the next one. Or I can just switch over. So, is anybody here for 101 North Reservation Terrace? Sounds like not, but,
No, Mike Seacamp is here,
oh, okay,
and Patrick.
let's see. Are they raising their hands?
Yeah.
Hold on, where is Mike Seacamp? Oh, here we go, okay.
Good evening.
Hi, Mike.
Hello. For the record, Mike Seacamp, Seacamp Environmental Consulting. I was asked by Mr. Harrington to take a look at the property and show that the mitigation had been accomplished, and that was done a couple of weeks ago. I submitted photographs. On the screen, you'll see on this neck, you see that triangular area right there? That was the offending shadowing. And what it was shadowing actually turns out to be the gravel, the stone driveway. However, it's about 76 square feet, and they were required to plant beach grass in an equivalent area. The order of conditions also required any damage to lawn to be planted with beach grass. However, there was no damage to the lawn because all of the staging of the materials was right here on this existing gravel area. So I believe the next photograph shows the actual mitigation planting, which is in this little alleyway alongside the house. I think that's probably the only area that was not lawn, and the opportunity was to plant it there. So I believe that they meet the requirements of the order of conditions.
So
Any questions?
we would require monitoring for 2 years on this to make sure that it takes. That,
So in this case, I mean, that's certainly something that we usually do. In this case, this mitigation was for really, there was no impact that should have required this mitigation or that would have required this mitigation. So, I mean, I guess it's up to your discretion whether or not you want to require the 2 years of monitoring regardless. But again, just to make it clear, I'm not sure that this project even needed a notice of intent, given that this triangular extension of a second floor deck over the existing gravel driveway was the only element of the project.
I agree with Julia.
Yeah. I agree too.
Yeah.
If this were to come in today, we wouldn't have required a notice of intent. We might not have even required an RDA. This potentially would have been something just going through the building department with the sign off in the office, because because it's cantilevered. If there were posts coming down to the ground, even given the gravel driveway, we certainly would have required an RDA or a notice of intent. But in this case, yeah.
okay. When was this permitted?
2008.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, I'll go along with it.
Yeah.
It's another case of the site is about to change hands, and so they
Yeah.
suddenly realized that they had this order of conditions that required 76 square feet of planting, and they hadn't done that piece yet, so they rapidly put the plants in, hoping they can get their certificate.
I'll make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance.
Second?
Okay, roll call, Paul Healy,
Yes.
Steve Moore,
Yes.
Dan Warshall,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next item is Rob Chiampetti, 229 Northern Boulevard, request for a determination of applicability. Is someone here for?
Yeah, Julia, did you unmute him from the attendees list?
Oh, yeah, there he is. Okay.
Julia, he's in the audience. You have to unmute him.
There we
Hello,
go.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. This is Rob Chiampetti. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Andy, Julia, and members of the commission. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my wife and a cottage that we both own at 229 Northern Boulevard. The application before the commission this evening is a request for a determination of applicability to construct a 4x4 changing stall that will basically attach on 2 points to what's shown on the shared screen now, that blue cedar shake area, and the back of that it'll essentially anchor at the post of that white fence that you see. It will come out the extent of those raised cement pavers that are pre-existing, and then it will make a 90-degree return back to the house. It'll be constructed posted up right on those cement pavers, 2 feet, of course, above grade, and we'll have a swinging gate to the backyard area.
Okay, so that's what it's going to look like, what's on the screen now.
More or less, that's a general geometry of what it's going to look like. That structure is actually a pre-manufactured shower stall that's sold by Home Depot, but because it's dimensionally the same as what I'm having hand built, because obviously the application is so specific and atypical that no manufactured product would work well there. So it's essentially going to look like that, which is why I provided that. Dimensionally, that's exactly, more or less how it would look. That's the kind of gate. That's 2 feet off the ground as well. What's shared now is actually a drawing from the contractor that will construct it. He's a fence contractor. He's done other work for me on other properties of mine in town, and he is, I believe, the right gentleman for the job, provided this meets with the commission's approval.
Any comments or questions?
No?
It kind of looks like a fence, in which case we want it to be 50% open, but I guess that would be sort of inappropriate for a change.
Yeah, that wouldn't really work well.
I mean, it's Plum Island, not Barbados, but we can.
Yeah, I guess I'm okay with it.
All right. Get a motion?
Motion to issue a -2.
Second.
Okay, roll call. Paul Healy,
Yes.
Steve Moore,
Yes.
Dan Warshall,
Yes.
David Vine.
Yes.
I vote yes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, thank you very much. Stay safe and well, and have a good evening. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Julia.
Thank you. Okay. So I need a motion to open the public hearings.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Paul Healy,
Yes.
Steve Moore,
Yes.
Dan Warshall,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Just a heads up to the applicants, we're going to limit, for the most part, we're going to limit to 30 minutes each of these presentations and discussion. If there's an absolute need to go farther, then we will, but it is a definite that some of these are not going to finish tonight anyway. So with that said, let's go to the first one. Paul Hogg, Harbor Master, Northern Boulevard, Plum Island Point, notice of intent. Is Paul here, or have they raised that shed yet?
Hi, this is Paul Hogg. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
How you doing? Yes, I'm here. I'm present.
So Paul, have you raised it yet?
Reed's Ferry has not. They have me on the books with everything that's going on. They haven't got out there yet, but I think on the last time we spoke I was getting an estimate, and then I was supposed to come back to you guys for the final approval to make sure you guys were okay with them raising it. And also I was going to do stairs in the front and a new ramp in the back.
Okay. Yeah, so long as it's, I'm fine with it, so long as it's up to 2 feet and of course isn't going to get blown away in a big windstorm. But for that,
Yep, I spoke with Reed's Ferry about that with your concerns, and they said that they'll make sure that if they need to do something that they would, but they think that the shed's secure enough, you know, raising it up a little bit in the way it is. But if they think it's necessary, then they'll certainly add cables or something to that effect if need be.
okay.
So looking at the picture in front of me, how are they going to accomplish the 2 feet? What's it going to be bearing on?
The same stuff it's sitting on now, the piles. They can actually go up with a jack, and they do one set at a time.
Okay, so what? So basically, there's going to be, like, I'm looking at one post there now. There'll be 4 of them. Is that about right?
Yes, they're on blocks right now, so they'll be adding additional ones.
Yeah.
It's not too far off in the front. It's on the back because the parking lot slopes. That's kind of where it's a little bit shorter on the other side. The side towards the lighthouse on the back side. So as you can see in the front, it doesn't have to go up obviously as much as it does in the back. But like I said, I've spoken with them. They have me, you know, ready to go as soon as they can get out there. You know, they're limited staff as well, just like everybody else.
Okay, so the whole thing's going to be up 2 feet. The side toward the road is going to be up 2 feet, and the back is going to be up what, like 3 feet?
Everything, yeah, they're gonna make it so everything is up 2 feet. That's what you guys wanted, I believe. They just wanted to make sure that it was 2 feet all the way around.
Okay.
So yes, the back, if the front is gonna be up 2 feet, correct, the back would have to be up a little bit higher to make it even. That's correct.
Okay. Well, that looks good to me.
Yeah, should do it.
Need to get it done, and then we'll. Okay.
Well, we need to close the hearing and do an order of conditions, don't we?
Well, you
Yes.
have the public too.
Yeah. Is there anybody from the public who wants to chime in on this one? Hearing none.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second,
Second,
Roll call, Paul Healy,
yes.
Steve Moore,
Yes.
Dan Warshaw,
Yes.
David Vine,
yes.
and I vote yes. All right. Thank you, Paul.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. I'll keep you guys informed as soon as I can get them out there. I will let you know.
Okay.
All right, thanks so much. Stay safe.
You too. Okay. Next item is George Hasseltine, Windward Shaw, 149 State Street, notice of intent. So, there we go.
Good evening, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
It's Patrick Seacamp Environmental Consulting. Although I can't see it, it's good to hear everybody's voices out there. So this is a notice of intent for a proposed building addition within the buffer zone. The project is located at 149 State Street. The business, current business on the site is actually Gordon Rug Company. So many of you may be familiar with that, at least the building, if not the site. The wetland is associated with kind of a large pond that that lies between State Street and the backside of the cemetery. And so it's just basically a big pond with a fringe of, narrow fringe of BVW around the edge of it. I have wetland flags A1 through A8. We submitted BVW field data plots along with our notice of intent submittal. The proposed addition is about 45 by 23 feet, so it's about 1,000 square foot building addition. It's proposed to go entirely on existing paved parking surface, so there's not going to be any additional buffer zone disturbance as a result of the building. There likely will be a little temporary construction disturbance, as you know, as you work around the edges of buildings. We do have a silt sock erosion control proposed around the work area. There is a little bit of work that we'd like to do at the back, or removing a small sliver of existing pavement where the building won't actually land on it. So we're actually taking a little bit of impervious area out, but really an insignificant amount. Millennium Engineering has done stormwater calcs. I believe Chris York is actually going to be on the webinar tonight, so if questions come up regarding stormwater, he can address those directly. As far as buffer zone under the bylaw, we are currently at about 26.7% of buffer that's been utilized, and we are not changing any of that number because we're utilizing the paved surface area. There is a small patch of Japanese knotweed. If you see on the plan, there is a proposed snow storage area. Our intent is to get rid of the knotweed, do the best we can to kind of control it in that area. I'm not sure where it came from, what its origination is. There's not a lot of knotweed down the slope or around the pond, so I think it's probably a good idea to just try to attack that and get rid of that. And then what we may end up doing actually is laying some poly down and trying to hold it back that way. And then that's ultimately going to be where the snow will be pushed for plowing. The dumpsters currently are sitting off the back of the pavement, kind of in that proposed snow storage area. We're proposing to move the dumpsters a little closer to the street along the side property line. It'll give the truck better access to do the trash removal and dumpster removal. We have submitted, the Japanese knotweed control as sort of what we feel is a mitigative measure that we can offer up as a result of this project. And I have put in a work sequence, sort of the project construction sequence. The building is first the pavement, we'll install erosion controls, demolish and remove the existing pavement, stage the excavated soils on site to be reutilized in the excavation hole, amend soils as needed with clean material, lay out the foundation, do the foundation construction. If we need to do any kind of dewatering, which we don't feel we do because, and I'll get to this in a minute, we know we have a water table on the site that was determined by others to be about 12 feet down. It's kind of a big till fill area. And building, utility, and parking construction, then the Japanese knotweed control and removal, and then landscaping and seeding of all the bare soil areas adjacent to the paved surfaces until stabilized. I would like to say this site presents a bit of a challenge, and I think maybe you guys may be aware of it. It's kind of new to me, but the site has what's called an AUL. It's an activity and use limitation. And it's under the Mass DEP Bureau of Waste Site Cleanup Standards. And so what they have, they know they have some material contamination that can be, there are certain restrictions of what can be done on the site, and there are certain allowances provided it gets done under accordance with the AUL, and building construction, building addition would be included in that as long as they follow the AUL and do their soil management standards under the direction of an LSP. And as I said, it's a little new to me. I'm not going to get into that in great detail because it's beyond my wheelhouse, but it is a standard that they will have to follow in doing this. And I think that speaks to why we're trying to limit as much disturbance to get the building constructed. So if we can use silt bags for dewatering, if there's any dewatering that we need to do, we'll utilize those. We're just trying to limit the overall disturbance beyond the actual building construction during construction. So I think with that, I'll turn it back to you guys. And if you need specific engineering details, I think I'll ask Chris to step up and address it.
Patrick, where do you have any idea where they were storing snow before?
I don't, but I think my recollection, and I was out there at one point over the winter, there were piles of snow directly where the snow storage area is. It was a little less defined. I think they were just sort of pushing it off the end of the existing pavement, and it was sitting in that area. But keep in mind the dumpsters were also in that area. So, you know, it was a little problematic because it's getting, that area now is getting squeezed, if you will, access as a result of the alleyway now between the proposed new building and the back of the site. So hence why the dumpsters had to come forward. And if you know the site, it's a little tight on parking. This is going to be a loading dock. It's going to give them a lot more flexibility. Their loading dock currently is parallel to the side, the existing side of the building. This is going to give them a little easier loading and offloading by backing the trucks directly up to the loading dock.
Patrick, what is the curlicue line that's on the plan that kind of looks like it might approximate the 25-foot no disturb zone, but
that is the tree line.
Okay.
Is that Steve?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the curlicue line is the overhang limit of the existing trees on the slope. So the slope does have some tree species on it. Some big trees down at the bottom along the pond, some big crack willows. There's some other trees, maples on the slope. So that's the sort of the drip line of the tree edge.
Okay. But it doesn't appear that you're anywhere near the 25-foot no disturb zone, but.
Correct. We're quite far out of it. No work is going to be going within the 20-foot, 25-foot zone.
Okay.
The stairs are going to be removed that I see there?
At the back,
Or they remain?
I think they are. That's a good question. I can't tell, Dave, by the plan notes.
I guess what I was leading to is I'm trying to, there's not enough survey here to figure out how the grading is going to go. So this is just going to be a wall that and a platform that's at elevation 44. I'm just trying to, a cross section would have been nice to see what it looks like on the back there, as far as excavating and so forth, to get the platform in.
Understood. I know the slab is going to meet the interior floor slab. So there won't be a foundation, if you will. This is going to be a slab on grade. And I think the intent is, you know, you see the finished floor elevation is going to be the same as the inside of the existing building. So really they'll have, it'll be the building wall will just meet the ground elevation as it does now, you know, the pavement. But I understand your point. Maybe Chris can weigh in and shed a little insight on the stair issue. I don't see a note where those stairs are actually being removed. I don't want to speak out of school because there's got to be a door obviously in that area that the stairs lead to, and whether they're going to continue to use that back stairway, I'm not sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I believe the stairs are to remain. We were never told that they were being taken out. So I don't know 100% for certain, but I believe the stairs are to remain there.
And as far as the grading back there, I'm still having a problem. I'm just trying to envision what that back wall it looks like, say in profile or whatever, of the loading bay. I mean, this thing has to be up because they're going to unload trucks. I mean, it's just a slab, and the first floor is probably raised. I don't know.
Yeah, the finished floor is just going to continue from the existing building at 40.44. And then the back behind the building is just going to be exposed the same way it is out there now. You know, it's about 36, looks like a 36 contour. It'll be 4 feet exposed behind the building as well, behind the new addition. I don't think we ever submitted any building plans, so I don't have anything there. But
Well, I guess all it's leading to is that whether you have to excavate, is there a, you know, in which case you'd be removing soil. And I guess you're going to be bringing in fill to get to the underneath the loading bay. I don't know. I can't tell anything.
yeah, we'll be bringing in fill in that area to raise it to 40.4. It's about 38 out front, the pavement in the parking lot.
Okay, so it's minimal.
So
Yeah.
does that mean you will not need to excavate significant soils, given there's an AUL? Just curious as to what you think you're going to need to do in terms of excavation.
Julia, this is Patrick.
Yep.
So my understanding, I had a brief discussion with George Hazeltine about this. And my understanding is we will have to excavate under the proposed building footprint. The soil will have to be side cast. Footings will have to be poured for the building slab. Those soils are going to be utilized back in the excavation hole as best as possible. We really, because of the URL, it's problematic, obviously, to move soil from the site. The primary concern for this site was not really the soil itself, but you know, they had to put in some a venting system inside the existing building. They will have to do the same thing for the proposed addition, and it's mainly for the air quality. It's just a concern for what was in the soil and whether it's a VOC that could create an air quality problem inside the buildings.
Right. Well, so that I guess, how raises the question of will there be an air quality concern during construction if those soils are being disturbed? This is all these are questions for an LSP, and if there is going to be an LSP on site and controlling the project, then that's fine. But
Yeah,
those things.
they are bound to a soil management plan for any soil disturbance under the direction of an LSP. And so I think they have to go that route. You know, this is kind of like the first step. Then when it gets time to actually do the construction, they have to bring, because of the AUL restrictions, they have to bring an LSP back to oversee this work. And they have to certify that it's being done in a way that, you know, meets the intent of the AUL.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I have a question. Has there been any documentation done on by an LSD that would say that this project is, you know, may not be all spec'd out, but is certainly doable depending, you know, on the nature of the toxic element underneath?
Specifically, Paul, I'm not sure whether this particular proposed addition has been run by the LSP who did the AUL, but that's a question we can get answered for you. I don't have an answer tonight.
Yeah, because I would think that they would want to do that because depending on what the restrictions are, it could lead to a very costly loading bay. You know what I mean?
Yes. No, they're aware of the requirements under the AUL.
Yeah.
And there's really two steps. There's a soil management plan while the construction is being done.
Mm-hmm.
There's a health and safety plan that has to go along with the proposed disturbance.
Right.
So the LSP has to sort of look at this and say, okay, here were the issues with the contamination and here are the concerns both during construction. That's the soil management plan. And then the health and safety plan would be, this is how we have to proceed in order to safely construct the building. And the building, they have exclusions or allowable activities with certain conditions, and the building construction is allowed as long as the requirements under the AUL are followed.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of new to me. I mean, I have done some imminent health risk assessments for other haz waste companies, but I don't get into the AUL stuff after the site's sort of been sitting for a long time.
Yeah.
I was actually surprised that the notice of intent forms don't actually have a checkoff box for this type of condition.
Right. Yeah, and I was kind of wondering if we were to approve this, if we have a condition saying that we would have such an LSD report outlining all of the issues and conditions and restrictions prior to work beginning.
Julie, can you unmute Lisa Mead?
Yes. Hold on. Okay. Hold on. Oops. Lisa. There you go, Lisa.
Thank you very much. Lisa Mead, Tellerman Costa, and while I wasn't planning on being here for this particular application tonight, I do represent George in the zoning process and actually just got off the phone with him. So a couple of things. Andy, I don't know if you have access to your email, but I forwarded you the elevations so that you could see, or that David could see, the rear elevation of the proposed addition and the addition itself. All of the material that may be disturbed is going to be encapsulated on site. No material is going to be removed from the site. There will be an LSP engaged. It doesn't have to be the same LSP that did the activity and use limitation. I haven't reviewed the activity and use limitation specifically, but they allow an LSP to conduct the later activities on the property. I mean, they run with the property, so you can't require the LSP that did the AUL to undertake any monitoring moving forward. The stairs in the back, George believes are to remain. It doesn't appear on the plan that they're going to be removed. Actually, yeah, on the elevation, it doesn't show that. It does show that they're going to be removed. I apologize. So the elevation shows that those stairs are going to be removed. So I don't know, Andy, I just forwarded that to you, and I don't know if you can actually get it. It may have been too big for your.
Yeah, Julie, I'm just gonna take the screen for a second.
No problem.
Am I missing something? Is there an elevation? I didn't see it.
Nope, hang on. It was filed with the zoning board. So it wasn't filed with the notice of intent, but I heard you all talking about it. And so instead of guessing, I pulled off the elevation and I'm providing it to you so you can see, David, what the rear looks like.
Lisa, do you want to look at any particular portion of this plan?
No, I think you're looking at the what's he say there, the right side elevation. I can't see the writing on there. So you can see the front, obviously. And then this is the right side elevation. So that would be coming up State Street towards downtown. And then I think if you
scroll down one more, that's the rear.
There we go. So you can see the rear elevation on the top photo. So you can see the work that's going to get done, David.
Yeah, I mean, I see it. I guess it's the disturbance aspect of this, because I mean, it's looking like a real genuine structure here, and footings and the whole work. So I mean, there will be some excavation, significant, just to get the footings in.
Right. I would have Patrick address that, though, that it's already on existing hot top. And it will be re-encapsulated on site. So Patrick, you can maybe talk about that and the retention and what you're using for barriers to prevent anything from slipping down into the wetlands.
Okay, Lisa, so right now what we have is a silt sock out around the back side of the building. We are going to have soil that we're pulling out of the footing holes. That soil will have to be side cast. So we've left some area, some space between the back edge of the existing pavement, which will be essentially the back edge of the proposed building, as a side cast area. Whatever soils we can recapsulate on site underneath the footings, the slab, that's what we're going to go use. You know, the concept here would be to not have to remove soils from the site, and then if we have to be bringing in a little bit of material once the footings are in and the slab, if you will, is there, and we have to grade to meet the existing grades at the back of the building, that would be virgin, clean soils. Wouldn't be a lot of material, but it's just enough to cover the footings. I would think under the direction of the LSP is really where the nitty-gritty for the soil management is going to come in. So for me to write a soil management protocol would be inappropriate, because under the LSP is going to have to basically call the shots about the movement of the soils and how long it sits, and the concern about whether it's got to be covered in plastic, whether it's got to be laid down on an impervious surface. I don't know any of that with respect to this kind of work.
And I guess I would like to know that kind of detail before we approve it, and not wait until we get the construction.
Yeah.
Well, at the very least, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but the board could require that it be done in accordance with the activity and use limitation under the direction of an LSP. So, but
it's a pretty tight site. So I mean, It's going to get kind of messy out there.
Yeah, my concern is that this excavated soil is something that's going to leak out of it and get down into the pond. And I want to know what's going to prevent that from happening.
Okay, can I speak on that? So I understand the commission's concerns, but the whole point of the state licensing LSPs is that they want somebody out there, obviously a professional who understands this kind of work and who calls that protocol, comes up with the protocol and gets it approved, and is responsible for that activity, making sure that that contamination doesn't migrate and it's done in a way that it's controlled. So obviously anything can happen with work like this, but we're not coming at this without a future protocol that's going to be developed by a licensed professional who does the work. So I guess to Lisa's comment, the commission certainly can condition, that this is approved, if you would, so see it. That licensed site professional, maybe we could provide his or her report to the commission, so you have an understanding. But ultimately, they control that work, because that's a whole separate set of environmental regulations in Massachusetts that are dictated by a separate subset of the environmental laws.
So do they not come up with the protocol until they know what they're dealing with? And at this point, you don't know what you're dealing with? Or
my understanding is they know what they're dealing with. They know the depths of what's there. And so but they haven't, the LSP obviously, and LSP hasn't come back and developed a protocol for this work, because this work is new. So I think we're taking it one step at a time. So without getting the Conservation Commission's approval, it's not worth the applicant's, I guess, time and money, quite frankly, to get an LSP on site to oversee the construction work.
Well, unless and until the project is approved, they don't know what the work actually is.
okay, so we're looking to have the eggs before the chicken lays them.
Yeah, well, that's why I was suggesting maybe have this LSP report as a condition before, I would assume that that person is going to have to do some work up front, reading the AUL and the whole history and what the applicant wants to accomplish. So, and put it together and write up with a report of what are the things that we can and cannot do. And then just provide that report to us.
Prior to the certificate of compliance?
Oh, no, I mean, I would say prior to start of work. I mean,
Right.
I would suggest a couple of conditions. One would be that all work shall be done in accordance with the activity and use limitation and under the direction of a LSP. And then also that prior to the start of work, the designated LSP shall provide a report to the commission outlining the activity and use limitation conditions and restrictions on the site and associated construction work plan for management of soils.
I guess instead of them just providing a report, I'd like them to come in and give us the details.
Okay.
As opposed to reading a report that we might not understand.
Yep. So
yeah, I don't have a problem with the project as proposed, but I do have concerns about the soil and what happens with it.
Yeah.
Right.
So as long as you're willing to have them come into a meeting and explain things to us.
So you
I'm
could
fine.
say that prior to start of work, the LSP shall provide a report to the commission and prior report and presentation to the commission at a public meeting outlining the activity and use limitation, conditions, and restrictions for the site and associated work plan for management of soils.
I'm good with that.
I think that's a good condition.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, I like it.
it's consistent with whatever the AUL requires.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can take care of that during the old and new business section.
Right.
Okay.
All right, we have anything else on this project?
I had one other sort of concern about the erosion control line over here behind the building. They've got it shown as being a silt sock, a 9-inch silt sock. To me, that's pretty, I know it's relatively flat back there before you reach the tree line and before you reach that slope. But to me, given the extent of work on site, potential excavation, construction of this building, and the fact that they're going to be behind there in the buffer zone and getting closer to the 25-foot no disturb, I'd like to see something more than just a 9-inch silt sock. Not necessarily think that there's going to be a lot of runoff, but we want to make sure that that work zone is clearly delineated for the construction phase, so that people and workers and debris don't go beyond that. So I'd rather see at least a silt fence.
How about both, Julia?
Yeah.
Sure, like yeah.
So a silt fence that also serves as a limit of work demarcation.
Yes.
And
Even if it's a silt even if it's a silt sock and then an orange construction fence or something, you know what I mean?
Right.
yeah, I guess my only one comment would be, I expect the LSP to come up with potentially additional erosion control measures if they see fit. But I don't know. We don't know yet because I don't know what the protocol is. But I think if you're willing to go with an orange construction fence, I mean, a silt fence is always a good idea in a situation like this, and it could serve as the dual purpose that an orange construction fence could serve.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's say that the erosion control shall be modified to include a silt fence along with the proposed silt sock to delineate the work zone.
Okay, and do you have a preference for whether I've seen it done both ways, the silt fence in front of the silt sock or the silt sock sitting right behind the silt fence?
Yeah, I've seen it. I don't really think I have a preference. I don't know if anybody else does. It's
I
sort
think
of,
I'd rather see the silt sock between the building and the silt fence.
yeah, that's sort of the way I usually see it, I guess.
Yep.
Silt fence first, the silt sock first.
Yep. Usually what we do is we trench in the silt fence first, and then the sock gets laid on top of, right up against, and then staked in right on top of the trenched in silt fence.
Yeah. That sounds fine. And then it's easier for the workers to see if it needs repair replacement.
Yeah. Agreed.
We have anything else?
I'm good.
Okay. Anybody from the public have any comments? Seeing or hearing any? Can we get a motion?
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Roll call, Paul Healy,
Yeah.
Steve Moore,
Yes.
Dan Warshaw,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you, Patrick. And
Thanks,
Lisa.
Patrick.
Stay safe, everybody.
You as well. All right. Next item is Dan Mortel, Mass DCR 0 Curzon Mill Road, Maudsley Flowering Pond, notice of intent. And as I said earlier, I'd like to keep this to a half an hour discussion if possible.
Yes.
Hello, this is Alyssa Noyes from GZA Geoenvironmental. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Great. So yes, great. You have either the G3 plan or the G7 plan. Also shows a little bit more of the resource areas. Perfect. Thank you. So yeah, again, as I said, my name is Alyssa Noyes from GZA Geoenvironmental, presenting this notice of intent for the Flowering Pond Dam Rehabilitation Project for DCR and the Friends of Maudsley State Park. Anders Bjorngard from GZA is also on the phone, so I'm going to do the initial presentation, and then him and I can answer any questions that you guys have. So yeah, as you can see, the dam is located within the park. And the resources on either side are the impoundment, which is Flowering Pond on the upstream side, and an unnamed tributary to the Merrimack River on the other side. And so there are some noted deficiencies on the dam that require some repairs. And so, let's see, these are presented in the notice of intent. So the proposed rehabilitation includes the following. So we'll be replacing the existing concrete spillway. The existing spillway is in poor condition and is falling apart as the concrete is deteriorated. And the new spillway will be constructed to the same dimensions as the existing. If the concrete spillway were to fail, the dam would be unable to pass flow and would eventually overtop and potentially fail. We'll then be removing the existing 12-inch diameter low-level outlet pipe, which is currently inoperable. So the pipe will be replaced with a 16-inch diameter pipe installed at approximately the same location. The new pipe will be controlled by a sluice gate valve from the crest of the dam, and the low-level outlet is required for safety reasons and for routine maintenance. A new concrete headwall will be constructed within the pond at the upstream end of the new low-level outlet pipe. So the slab of the new headwall will be set at the invert of the new pipe at the elevation 15 feet. And the upstream end will also be fitted with a stop log bay. Excavation to remove the existing pipe and install the new pipe will require temporary removal of a portion of the downstream non-mortared boulder wall and concrete core wall in the area of the pipes. These walls will be reconstructed after the new pipe is in place. There's also a slight bulging of the downstream masonry wall, and so the bulge area of the wall will be reconstructed during the installation of the new pipe. The boulders will be temporarily removed to install the new low-level outlet and put back in place in order to maintain the existing historic appearance of the dam and the downstream wall. We'll also be removing the existing timber boards along the upstream face of the dam, which are currently in poor condition. The purpose of the boards was to protect the upstream slope from erosion due to wave action and burrowing animals. The timbers will be replaced with a 1 foot thick stone layer underlain by a 6-inch thick layer of crushed stone within the same footprint as the timber boards that are currently there. And the stone will be underlain by a geosynthetic clay layer, which will reduce seepage through the embankment and prevent further erosion. And then in addition, along the top, we'll be replacing the existing pedestrian access along the top of the dam with a new wooden footbridge over the new spillway, which is similar to the existing footbridge. Metal fence will be provided along the downstream side of the dam crest and around the spillway for fall protection. And handicap accessible benches will be provided along the top of the dam. And the Friends of Maudsley State Park requested that the waterfall appearance at the downstream end of the spillway will be maintained. So the upstream and downstream inverts of the dam spillway will be reconstructed at the same elevation as the existing spillway, which will maintain the pond's existing normal pool elevation discharge from the spillway will free fall for an approximately 15-foot drop, as it currently does. In order to prevent erosion of soil at the base of the spillway, boulders will be placed in the downstream channel to match the existing stream bottom elevation, as you can see on the drawings there. And so for all of this to occur, the resources on site include, there's a few of them. So we delineated bank and bordering vegetated wetland on site. And so the delineation show impacts to bank, bordering vegetated wetland, land under water and water bodies, bordering land subject to flooding, the riverfront area, the buffer zone, and the no disturb zone, which will require a variance. So these are all temporary impacts, and they are all unfortunately unavoidable due to the nature of the work, as it has to occur on top of the resource areas. And so, yeah, I think you can see this, but I guess if we want to explain more about the resource area impacts, you can see a little bit better on that G7 drawing. So yeah, the construction is proposed for fall and early winter of this year. And let's see, we will, for construction, we'll be bringing vehicles in through the park. DCR has requested, they want to minimize the impacts to the access roads, along the park. And then we'll be primarily placing, you can see the limit of work there and is a dotted red line. And so prior to the start of construction, the contractor will install the sediment and erosion controls as shown on the plans. And the contractor will primarily utilize this area immediately east of the dam, and that upland area outside of the work area for construction equipment staging. Let's see, yeah, there will be some select clearing, grubbing, and removal of vegetation in order to access the dam, and also to remove some of these trees that may potentially affect the dam. It's not good to have the trees along there, as it can impact the dam itself. And so that is pretty much all that I have at the moment. I guess that was kind of a lot of download, but just wanted to see what you guys would like to talk about, and Anders, feel free to jump in if you have anything else to add as well.
Thank you, Alyssa. This is Anders Bjørngard, principal with GZA. So I think Alyssa did a nice job just getting all of the facts out there and leaving plenty of time for questions. Again, we've been working with the park and the Friends, as well as the Office of Dam Safety, to kind of come to a compromise here to do what's necessary to keep the dam safe while maintaining the historic appearance of the structure and minimizing impacts. So I think we've toned that down and done that about as successfully as we can. But as Alyssa mentioned, there are some significant temporary impacts.
Okay, so when the dredging took place out there in the pond a couple years ago, they lowered the water level. Do you have to go lower than they did for that? Or is it higher or the same?
We're actually going to go a little bit higher. So we're anticipating going down to elevation 13. I think they went down another 3 or 4 feet to empty the pond. So we will leave some impoundment. It's pretty minimal, probably only be about 3 or 4 feet at its deepest portion.
And that would be right. I believe the deepest part of the pond is right near where you're going to be working.
Yes.
Okay. So in the lowering of the water level, that would be where turtles, frogs, whatever would go to make sure they have enough water so they don't freeze. And
in the narrative, it says GDA and DCR recognize the concerns about the effects of lowering the water on the pond's wildlife. You recognize the concerns, but there's no verbiage as to what it is you're going to do to prevent anything from happening. And I think when we went out there and had the site visit, late October, November, I suggested that you meet with the state herpetologist, get their recommendations. And I don't see that happened. So I have concerns about the wildlife and the result of this construction.
Okay. Yes, I do not remember discussions with, but I know we have engaged National Heritage and others in minimizing impacts. It's just there's only so much we can do. One thought was that by doing this work in the fall and drawing the pond down slowly, we could allow at least some of the wildlife to find other places. And, you know, regarding frogs and things like that, I guess, you know, they probably would, as you say, seek shelter in the deep sediments there in front of the dam. There will be a section in there. We're not working all the way down, so there is a pool where the remaining amphibious wildlife will still be able to exist.
Okay. So you're gonna be pumping water over the dam while you're doing construction? I guess that's how it's happening, because at one point I saw a reference to a coffer dam being removed. And I assumed that was on the upstream side, but then further on I realized that was on the downstream side. But
yeah, so the construction sequence would be to divert the stream over the dam, either by siphons or maybe supplement that with some pumping, until we can get that low-level outlet in place. And then we would run the flow through the low-level outlet to complete the rest of the project.
okay. And just, I go out there quite a lot. And I've talked with Rob on many occasions, and the outlets that is there has never worked since the state took it over, and they've never had a reason to make it work, apparently. So I'm wondering about the necessity of even replacing it, if it's never been used in the 30 some odd years the state's been there. Or is that a requirement from dam safety?
It is typically a requirement under dam safety for, you know, rapidly drawing down the impoundment in the event that there is a potential failure taking place. So the best way to address that is to lower the pool and the head acting that would minimize seepage going through the dam that might carry fines and cause internal erosion of the structure. So that is a standard of practice for the dam, for dams in general.
Right.
Anders, this is Julia. This might be a strange question, but I'm not aware what the purpose of this particular dam is and this impoundment. Do you have any idea, like, why this is an important dam? What's its function here?
Well, I think it was strictly, you know, recreational in its aesthetic value.
Right. Seems like a lot of expense and a lot of environmental damage in some ways for something that I'm just not clear on the purpose.
Well, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but given the fact that it's there now, we don't really have much choice, because there would be much more environmental damage were it to fail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Apparently, historically, there was a mill there I was talking, because just recently I discovered, and in fact, I wanted to bring this up, there's an old grinding stone on the site that I never knew was there and apparently has been for a long time. And I wanted to make sure that it didn't get damaged. I think there's like a 30-foot tree on your plan to the east or northeast. And I think it's laying on the ground there. I just wanted to make sure that it didn't get damaged in the construction process. In fact, they may want it moved somewhere else. But apparently before the Mosleys bought this property, there was an active mill there, although I don't understand how it ever worked because there isn't that much water flow.
Right.
But
yeah, I would agree. I don't know if Rob Kovacs is aware of that stone, but I'm sure that.
I know Donna Sudak is, and she's the park interpreter.
Yeah, we will make sure to salvage that. I would imagine that Rob would want to possibly make that a feature of the dam repair.
Okay.
Anders, David Vine, I'm on sheet C2. And I'm trying to get a sense of how much excavation you're going to be doing in order to get down to the pipe. I do remember when we were out there on the site, it's pretty cramped, and I'm just trying to get a sense of how much soil you're removing and how you're going to protect it, or, you know, just making sure that things don't go back into the pond.
Right. Yeah, and I think when we met, the repair was a little more grandiose than it is currently. We have scaled back on the excavation. At one point, we were considering almost excavating and reconstructing the entire dam. And we have limited our work now. Yeah, thank you for pulling that sheet up to basically that inverted triangle that you see down in the lower right-hand corner of sheet C2, which is what would be required to remove that existing 12-inch diameter outlet pipe, and then a little bit more to the right to put in the new one. It's a little bit hard to see in this particular. So we've dramatically reduced the amount of excavation that would be required here. Most of that downstream wall, so there was initially, from previous dam safety inspection reports, there was a lot of concern about the stability of the downstream wall. We've evaluated that, and I don't know if it's coincidence, but most of that bulging is in the area of the existing outlet pipe. So by replacing that at the same time, we can reconstruct that stone wall, and as Alyssa pointed out, with the existing stones, and put those back and fix the bulge at the same time. So it's a fairly minimal excavation. I think that, let me see if I can give you some numbers. I'm gonna say it's approximately, the top of that inverted triangle is maybe about 15 feet
Okay.
wide, 20 at best.
Yeah. And the height is probably what, like 9 feet or something?
Yeah, we're basically going from 22 to 13 or so, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's much less work than we were originally thinking, and that's partly due to impact. It's due to the fact that this dam is fairly low hazard. It's, you know, there's no threat to human life in a failure. In fact, it could be considered non-jurisdictional, which just means that it doesn't by law have to comply with the state's dam safety regulations. But currently it's listed as a low hazard structure. But, you know, I think, I'm glad you brought that up, Dave, because I'm pretty sure that when we met out there quite a while ago, and at that time, this project was much more extensive than it is now. We really are just doing the minimum to address the safety issues and improve some of the, like the railing, the safety railing, and the functionality of the low-level outlet.
Okay, and is there a place that you've designated for the stockpiling of the material?
Yes, we will be staging whatever we can in the area that is east of the dam. It's a fairly open area. There's some beautiful big pine trees in that area, but the undergrowth is minimal and the trees are fairly widely spaced out. So we'll use that to some extent, but we've also anticipate providing a staging area that is sort of upstream of the dam, and it is, I can tell you what sheet it's on. It would be sheet G6. So if you scroll up a couple of figures, this is sort of an overview on the park's footpath map. And that red dot that you see, so the dam is the black dot. So the dam is at the northwest end of the pond. And then that red dot is up on the upland area there where there's an open field where we're anticipating giving the contractor an area for additional staging, but I don't expect, I think that's more going to be, maybe they might store a roll of the geocomposite or something. There's so little material coming out that I don't think they're going to need that for storage of soils.
Okay.
But those are the only two areas where they're allowed to stage.
Anders, does that include dewatering and whether or not it's going to be a dewatering tank or dewatering bags? There was some, I couldn't figure out what it was.
Yeah.
What the proposal was.
Right. We don't anticipate, we have it in the NOI narrative in case we need to pump to dewater for construction. And if we would use the dirt bag or a silt sock type of containment, and that would probably be on the right side of the dam to the east.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be the only real place to make sense.
So you think that by lowering the impoundment to elevation 13, that'll make it so that there will be no need for any further dewatering potentially?
It'll definitely minimize the need. Whether or not there will still be a need to pump a little bit, there could be, yeah.
Okay.
It would be pretty minimal, I think.
Right. The notes in the plans, and I can't remember which page, but I remember seeing the notes in the project plans refer to a fractionation tank, whereas the NOI was discussing dirt bags. So I was just confused about.
Yeah,
it should be the dirt. It should be the bags, the filter bags.
That might have been a leftover from some standard notes.
Okay, and then it would just be overland flow from the filter bags back into the downstream, I'm assuming, side?
Yeah, I think we would have to find a way to do that, or a route to do that to stay out of the construction area and make sure that can happen in a manner that doesn't create any erosion. But I don't visualize a lot of flow there at all.
Was there any, remember we talked about this on site a long time ago, about the proposal or a potential use of a cofferdam on the upstream side rather than drawing down the impoundment? Was it that they just logistically can't get a cofferdam in there?
Logistically and just from the standpoint that it is huge equipment and very costly,
Okay.
which just creates more impact.
Yep.
Just getting back to the turtles and frogs. Your construction plan was to start in the fall and continue into the early winter. Would the new outlet pipe be done relatively early in that process, and then perhaps before it gets really cold, the water level could go back up so that it isn't as much of an issue? Or
Yeah, I think we would try to schedule it that way. I mean, all in all, I think this is probably only like a 2-month construction period. So I think it's going to happen pretty quickly, but we could, I hate to get into the means and methods of the contractor, but we could certainly put that into the construction specifications that, schedule it so that we can continue to do whatever we can to minimize those temporary impacts.
okay. And just budget-wise, is the money for this hard and fast, or with this COVID-19, is the budget going to disappear?
I don't know if Rob is on or anybody from DCR is on, but I really can't answer that question.
Okay.
I know that it is significantly less than was being talked about at one point in time, so that might make it more likely that it's hard and fast. But I hate to speculate.
Okay.
Well, if it isn't, the NOI is good for 3 years, so.
Right, and they're certainly not going to start anything unless they know they can finish it.
Anybody else have anything?
Yeah, I have another quick question about the resource area impacts. DEP comments say that the project needs a 401 water quality cert for total impacts greater than 5,000 square feet of BVW. Is that correct?
Alyssa, do you want to take that?
Sure, yeah. So we will not have greater than 5,000 square feet of BVW. I mean, we have about 360 square feet of BVW. So it shouldn't be an issue with that. And then we have, I think we have proposed approximately 90 cubic yards of, dredging for that down, upstream slope in order to access the pipe and replace those timber boards. So it should be all set with a order of conditions.
Okay, so have you communicated that to DEP at this point? They seem to think that this is all necessary, and Army Corps of Engineers for an advisory opinion and MEPA and all that.
I see. So yeah, we have not coordinated with the 401 water quality cert yet because we are planning to submit the pre-construction notification with the Army Corps as well as MEPA and Chapter 91. And we are in the process of compiling those drafts and coordinating with those agencies, but we have not officially submitted any of those permits yet.
Okay.
But they are pretty much, they're just about ready to go, as I recall, Alyssa, correct?
Yes, yep. Yeah, they are in the process. We're doing a pre-filing review with MEPA and Chapter 91, and we'll be submitting the Army Corps as well. That's just in some internal review.
Okay, would you anticipate that any of these project details would change based on the review with MEPA and Chapter 91?
I don't believe so. No, we have all the same information and plan sets in there. We had to update the plan set for the Chapter 91 requirements, but otherwise, yep.
Okay, and we can just assume that if there were any changes that they would require of you guys to make to the plans, that you would just forward us those changes, and if they were significant enough, we would do a modification.
Yeah, certainly. Yep.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Just on the outlet pipe, I assume below that there is rocks or something to prevent any erosion from taking place like there is from the waterfall? Or
Yes, that's correct. And it actually it discharges to the same area that the waterfall would discharge to, or does discharge to.
okay.
All right. Well, my 30-minute thing just went off. But do we have anything else from anybody?
I'm all set.
Okay. Do we have anything from the public? I don't see any hands. All right. What do we want to do?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second,
Okay, roll call. Paul Hilly,
yes.
Steve Moore,
Yes.
Dan Warshall,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Okay. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is Gregory Elliott, Candace McMahon, 1254th Street, notice of intent.
Okay.
And there's Mike Seacamp.
And I've just allowed them to speak. So they want to introduce themselves.
Hi, hello again, Mike Seacamp here, Seacamp Environmental.
Okay.
And I'll wait for the project to come up on the screen.
Yeah, actually, just a question. There were a number of documents submitted. Do you have a preference as to what is shown right now?
Yeah, why don't we show the revised project narrative, which includes the mitigation that I added. And I can give you an overview of the project with that document, and then we can go to the plan. Yeah, so, okay, I looked, do I have control of, can you see my cursor going around there?
No. If you want to speak to the element on the screen, I can point to them.
Okay, why don't we start at the top? Go up to page 1, yeah. So you see the photograph there, right where that, that's a rhododendron, and that is where the proposed addition will be. And this addition is about a little over 14 by 9 and about 128 square feet. So it'll go between the house and the deck. And obviously that rhododendron will come out. The increase in footprint will be a little bit less than 10% of living space. It doesn't include the decks and that kind of thing. And the proposal is also to go up in elevation. And I believe John Sava, the architect, is with us tonight. And I believe that Lisa Mead has also been involved with the zoning board. So, and I will defer to John when it comes to elements of structure. But if we move down the page now.
My phone didn't go off, did it?
So these are some of the elevation issues, and the flood elevation here is elevation 9, and that what you're looking at right there is just a few inches below elevation 9, And as you go to the left, this is the deck. And as you go to the left, it hits elevation 9, and we can look at the revised plan or the plan later. But these are some of the elevations that I took. The top of the floor elevation is at 12, so that leaves us a foot for the lowest structural member to be above 2 feet. And John hopefully can explain how that will work. The plan you're seeing here, what you see, the mitigation area I have cross-hatched in red, and that area is currently gravel area, and there's actually a roll-off there right now, and that is the exact same size as the addition, which is on the opposite side of that plan in the dark right there. That's where that's the addition, and it'll attach to the deck. And we have provided an analysis from an appraiser for the 50% rule. Yeah, that's a little bit easier to read there. And those red dots were just some errant things that don't move when you move the when you change the rotation, but they're meaningless. Let's see if you can see the elevation 9 goes right through the proposed addition. And if we now switch to the plan that stands alone that I sent in, I sent it at the same time as I sent this revised project narrative. We can look at where elevation 9 is. You can see that it's labeled there, and it goes right through where the addition is. And this plan does not show the mitigation area. That was something that I added and did the crosshatch. But this is the basic layout, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Patrick, can you hear me?
It's Mike.
Or Mike, sorry.
Yeah, that's
sorry
okay.
about that.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
So my question with this project is mainly related to the elevations being achieved with the lowest horizontal member, because while the base flood elevation is at 9, and you can see that on the plan, and you've shown that the finished first floor elevation will be at 12.
Yes.
There's nothing that shows that the lowest horizontal member will be elevated at or above 11. So I've been looking for that. Just doesn't seem to be anywhere on any of the submissions.
And that is hopefully John Salva can answer that question.
Yes, I can answer that question. Julia, can you hear me? Yeah, hi. The proposed addition is going to have the exact same elevation, 12. And the beauty of this particular infill, if you would, is it's surrounded by building on 3 sides. So what we're going to do is we're going to be securing a ledger to the sills, the existing sills, and rim beam on the existing structure and the existing deck. So we'll ramset that into a new ledger, and then we'll be using joist hangers, pressure treated 2x10s, and then which will line up with the existing floor when we add 3/4 inch tongue and groove plywood to it, and then a minimal finish floor. So we're going to be, you know, at the most would ever be, would be 11 underneath. it,
Right.
2
So
feet.
I mean, I can understand that you can achieve it. I guess my issue is that it's not shown anywhere. We need, in order for this to be approved, we need a plan that shows that, an elevation drawing that shows that the lowest horizontal member will be at or above 11. So I can take your word for it, and I believe you, and I can see that the finished floor is already at 12, and that you're going to just add, onto that existing finished floor elevation. But it needs to show that on the plan in more detail than what you've got. So,
Well, can we, excuse me, John, so again.
Yeah.
Can we proceed with this with a caveat that I throw a cross-section in there showing that detail? I hate to come back
Yeah.
15 times, you know?
No, I know. The thing is, I thought that I requested this number of times from you all. I don't know. It's up to the commission whether they want to just go ahead and issue an order that requires a new plan to be submitted showing the elevations.
Yeah, it's really up to the board, and thank you, members of the board and chairman.
Yeah. Just as an aside, we don't need any sort of piling plan because we're not going to be attaching this to the ground. It's all going to be attached to existing buildings. So all you're looking for really is a side elevation showing the elevation of the land and the elevation of the lowest member being above 11.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any heartburn with adding that as a condition?
No, I think that's fine for this.
I think it's okay.
Okay.
In the mitigation area, what are you planning on putting in there?
Beach grass, Ammophila bevigliata, at a density of every 18 inches, there'll be 3 culms. So there'll be a total of about 172 culms of beach grass.
Okay. You could put some other native species in there if you wanted to.
I certainly will run that by the owners.
I don't know.
They're happy with the beach grass, though.
Okay. Something like beach plum or bayberry or.
Yeah, they might want to replace the shrub since that rhododendron's coming out. Maybe they want to put something in the corner there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Maybe they'd like something like that. Get some more bird visits.
A little more diversity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe since the plan shows beach grass, we could just put in a condition, special condition that they may replace it with something else, and they should just provide a plan as or a letter saying what is going to be planted there.
Yeah, as long as it's native, native to that type of area.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, do we have anything else?
I'm okay.
Okay. Anything from the public? All right, see nothing from the public. So what shall we do?
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Roll call, Paul Healy,
Yes.
Steve Moore,
Yes.
Dan Warshall,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. One other thing before I sign off, I see that you have 468th Street on the agenda, but we would like to continue that.
Okay.
McDonald's. We're still working on the plan.
So noted.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.
Until what
you.
date is that continued?
Well, we'll continue to the next meeting, which I believe is what, the 19th?
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
I don't know that we'll be ready then, but we'll just have to continue it then if necessary.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks again.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. Next item on the agenda is David Daly, Daly Group, 8, 10, 12, and 18 Colby Farm Lane, notice of intent. One thing I wanted to say right off the bat, I'm frankly confused as to why Lot 1 looks the way it is, despite Julie requesting some changes. Personally, it's not something that I'm going to vote for as it stands right now. But with that said, let's get into the discussion.
This is David Daly. Can you hear me?
Not very well.
Very faintly.
Yeah.
David Daly. I'll try to speak up here.
Much better.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think what happened was there was a couple iterations of the plans. Matt Hammer, our engineer, is with us this evening. He will speak to that situation regarding Lot 1. I think we have a very good explanation for that and a plan that we can show you that will explain that and remedy that situation, any concerns you have over Lot 1. But I'll let Matt Hammer, our engineer, go over that. Matt, or
Yes, hello. Hello, everyone. So for the record, my name is Matt Hammer with Lamplex Engineering, and I will walk you through the notice of intent filing for this property, so I can walk you through the entire development. If you could go to sheet 2, which is the existing condition sheet. Do I have control of this? I don't have any, yeah, okay.
You can just indicate which plan you're looking for and we'll zoom in as needed, whatever you like.
Okay, is this Andy?
It is, yep.
Yeah, hi Andy.
Yeah.
So the parcel is 7.6 acres. It currently consists of 4 parcels. Those lot lines are shown on the plan going vertical off of Colby Farm Lane. And right now, the property is being utilized as some sort of trucking, storage facility, storage of containers. Some of those trailers are shown on the plan. There's an existing commercial building that's currently being utilized, and there's various vehicles and trailers surrounding the, completely encompassing the entire upland portion of the property. The grade slope from the easterly side down toward to the west, which is the wetland line. And we have 2 wetland lines that are shown. One is an A line, which has wetland flags identified as wetland flag 1A through 23A. And that's, you can see that at the lower part of the contouring there. And then there's a little upland portion of land which was identified, which is shown as a B line. And those wetlands were delineated last year by Norse Environmental. We also have wetland flag or wetland line overlays shown because the wetlands are segmented in a way in the rear of the property. And we utilized a plan that we had from 2002, which was an old ANRAD plan that was filed with the town at some point in 2002. So we're using this this A line as a determination of where all the buffer areas are associated with the wetland line that affect the property that we're proposing to develop. So this project is going to be falling under the City of Newburyport's ordinance for open space residential development. And with that development, Andy, if you could go to sheet 1, there's a summary calculation for the development itself. And essentially the development, in order to meet the criteria for an open space residential development, it needs to have a minimum of 3 acres. Our project is 7.64 acres. And then there's a criteria of, what is open space, what is upland, what are the disturbed areas, and how do you get to a basic number of units in order to develop the property. That calculation is shown on the cover sheet, and this property yields a total of 8 units, and that yield is determined on sheet 3, where we would lay out a conventional layout of lots, determine a density of yield, and then that density of yield comprises of the total density of the project. With one caveat, this project would also have 1 affordable housing unit. So we're at a total of 8 units, with one of those units being deemed affordable. And that's what sheet 3 is a yield plan which shows the configuration of 4 duplex dwellings on 4 individual lots with a road to determine your total yield. Then if you go to the next sheet, sheet 4, this sheet here is a layout of a new lot line configuration. And essentially this property is going to be divided into 3 separate lots. Lot 1 is going to be a 10,000 square foot lot, and we'll talk more about lot 1 later on. We had some comments from Julia, the conservation agent, and we have a different discussion we can have related to lot 1. We also have lot 2, which is shown, which is primarily the upland portion of the property. And then we show a lot 3, which is an open space tract, which is a 6.26 open space tract, which encompasses the remainder of all that land that has a variation of wetlands and uplands associated with it. The next sheet is a layout sheet.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Can you go back for 1 second? You described lot 3 as over 6 acres. Are you still on sheet 3? Is this sheet 3 you're describing?
Well, we were on sheet 4. Sorry. Yes.
This is Andy. Just to clarify, the sheet 3. Sheet 3 is the one that's up right now.
Oh.
That's the yield plan. So that's not actually what's being proposed. That's the conceptual to show what's allowed under zoning. And then the sheet that I've just put up now is the lot configuration sheet that they're proposing.
Okay, thank you. I thought we were still on sheet 3, so I was working from that. It didn't make sense.
Oh, I apologize.
No problem.
So, so we jumped to sheet 4, which was the layout of the lots themselves, and now we're on sheet 5, which is the layout of the development, which I'll walk through. So we have a layout sheet which doesn't have any grading or utilities on it. It just has the layout of the infrastructure of the development. This sheet also shows the buffer zones associated with the bordering vegetative wetland to the west, which are a 25-foot buffer, a 50-foot buffer, and a 100-foot buffer. Those buffer zones are also identified in the narrative in the notice of intent report, which I don't know if everyone has that report. But within our report in the narrative, it's on page 5 within the report. It has a breakdown of all the percentages of the existing disturbances in the 25, the 50, and the 100-foot buffer, as well as the proposed work within those buffer zones, as well as quantifying a restoration of areas primarily affected in the 25-foot buffer, which was essentially the current owner of that property has graded up to or near the existing bordering vegetative wetland there. The project is, as I noted before, is going to consist of a total of 8 units. There's going to be a 22-foot wide access drive just at the entrance that was requested during some technical review meetings. You come in the main entrance at 22-foot wide. It'll narrow down to 20 feet wide, and there's going to be a proposed barn style, architectural style duplex unit to the east. There's going to be 2 associated parking areas for the duplex. And extending into the property, the access drive will loop around, provide access to 5 individual single-family dwellings, each of which will have their own parking areas out in front of the units. And each of those 5 units will also have a porch area on the rear. And the porch area in the rear is going to have a proposed walkway along those units, extending all the way over to the easterly side of the property, and then coming down to Colby Farm Lane, if everyone was able to follow that description of that walkway. Additionally, in the access drive opposite the front of the single-family units, there's also going to be a small parking area for 5 visitor parking spaces, as well as an emergency turnaround area in order to get a fire truck safely turned around out of the project. Additionally, there's going to be a multi-functioned playground and open space area, which is going to be completely fenced in, half of which approximately is going to be there primarily for the use of the folks who own the units within the development. And there's also going to be a playground area that's going to be open to the public, which is shown directly adjacent to Colby Farm Lane. That playground area will also be privately fenced in, as well as being serviced by 5 individual parking spaces, and also having one of those spaces handicap accessible. Moving over to the single family lot, we're proposing a single family dwelling there with its own separate access drive. And it's going to be part of the whole development per the homeowners association documents, but it is going to have its own separate access drive. Andy, if you could go to the next sheet, the grading sheet. Hello? Oh, thank you. So if you could zoom in similar to the way you were, it would be good. So this plan's very busy, but it's a grading plan for the entire development. Essentially, there's two primary drainage areas shown, which is going to be subsurface drainage, which is going to fully meet stormwater regulations, which will be a catch basin to oil water separator to a subsurface infiltration system. And those two infiltration systems will be, able to mitigate all the surface runoff coming from all the units in the roadway. Additionally, there's grading shown that we're trying to keep the majority of that grading outside of the 25-foot buffer. But you'll notice on the westerly side of the entrance drive, there is some grading that does extend into that 25-foot buffer. But besides that one little section in proximity to wetland flag 14A and 15A, there's grading within that 25-foot buffer. Everywhere else, we've been trying to keep the limit of grading outside of that 25-foot buffer. The project's going to be serviced with municipal water as well as sewer. The sewer system proposed is, the primary sewer system is on the rear side of the single family units, and it's essentially underneath the walkway extending back over to Colby Farm Lane. So it was nice to be able to get the sewer system to function by gravity for the primary development on lot 2. But the single family house is going to need to have a grinder pump, and that will be pumped by low pressure sewer up Colby Lane into the sewer manhole that's connected to the primary project. Moving to the next sheet. And if you folks need more detail related to that, I can provide as much detail as you want related to that grading plan. But this sheet here is our erosion control plan. And also it shows the identification of where there's going to be a restoration area, as well as the square footage of that restoration area. So the down gradient side of the project, encompassing the restoration area and the development itself, will have an erosion and sedimentation control line. That restoration area is going to consist of 5,297 square feet of restoration area within the 25-foot buffer. And then we're also showing a temporary construction entrance on this plan, as well as 2 stockpiling areas for the project, which will be in this open field area, which is also outside of the 100-foot buffer. And those two are the 2 large circles shown in the north of the playground area. This, I think, would be a good segue to also discuss the restoration area and the plantings. We have the landscape architect with us here this evening to also walk through that. But that's essentially my presentation on the development as a whole. And maybe Howard, you might want to chime in on the restoration proposed with the landscaping. Is Howard on?
I'm not seeing anybody named Howard.
Hello. Okay. Well, we have a set of landscape plans in the packet.
Yeah, I'll pull those up.
So we were hoping to have, Howard was supposed to walk through the full landscaping plan proposed. But these essentially are his landscaping layout shown. And there's a legend shown as well for that. And the areas closest to the wetland are indicative of wetland species, which are red maples, and there's also, I mean, I can try to speak to all his landscaping proposed, but I wasn't prepared to walk through all of that.
Don't worry about that. I think it's pretty clear what the commission's concern is with the landscape plan, as Joe might have mentioned at the very beginning, which is that on lot 1, which is the lot that actually has the wetland as part of it in that corner, that upper left corner.
Right.
And 25-foot no disturb zone, obviously, it shows that it's going to be planted all in lawn. And that's even after the comments during tech review that the lot lines themselves should be changed on that lot so that it does not include the wetland itself, and preferably as much of the 25-foot no disturb as possible. Because the problem that you have when you have a single family home with wetlands and buffer zone on the property is that, you know, they don't know where things begin and end, and tend to want to use their whole lot as they should, you know, as they might feel like they have a right to, and that's not something, that's not a condition that we want to set up right off the bat. It just makes more sense to not even have that be part of their lot.
Yeah, so yes, Julia, we I came up with two solutions we could have for that. One is there could be a recorded plan talking to a no alteration area on a plan of land on record on the deed is one option. And then another option I was thinking of, if you go to, Andy, if you go to sheet, the restoration sheet, which is my sheet 7. So, Julia, you see where the erosion control line is there?
Yeah.
We were thinking we could have that be the lot line, and that lot would then be reduced down to, you know, it would be 8,045 square feet, which would be under the required lot area, but I was told that the planning board has the ability to grant a waiver to that lot size requirement.
Yeah, well, that certainly makes more sense from the Conservation Commission perspective to have a lot looks like that.
Okay. Yeah, so we could do that. So essentially, I have a plan drafted up. I wish I could show it to you now, but essentially where that erosion control line is, that would be the new lot line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's in the best interest of actually of the homeowner in the long run as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Then they can feel more comfortable knowing that they can actually utilize their entirety of their lot.
Well, can they? Because a whole bunch of that lot is in the 25-foot
Well,
no disturb zone.
Yeah, that's true. There is still a good amount of that within the
I mean,
no disturb.
There's an equivalent amount of area that's in the no disturb zone.
Yeah. However, that no disturb zone is already disturbed, so it's sort of an existing condition. I'm not sure whether or not you think that the restoration area that they're proposing more than balances that out, or whether you'd still like to see that restored, that area restored as well.
Well,
I guess if you were to take, I'm not sure what the westerly side of the lot, you know, where we're, you know, if you took there's a very narrow portion of no disturb zone on the westerly part of the lot.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to take that to the back of the house and restore that, and then to leave that whole backyard, which is primarily no disturb zone, allow them to use that. That, I don't know how much that would reduce the size of the lot.
Are you saying sort of straighten that line out a little bit so that it comes down more perpendicular to the street?
Well, I would certainly prefer something like that. And, you know, we've got grading going on in the no disturb zone as well. Is there going to be a, I understand it's disturbed lot already, but it's still a 25 no disturb. Is there any kind of a variance being proposed?
So,
Yeah. Oops, sorry.
well, sorry, Mr. Chair, this is Lisa Mead on behalf of the developer. I wanted to, there are variances that are being requested, and Matt has laid them out, I believe, in accordance with all of the requirements of the ordinance and of the regulations, and clearly shows what the public benefit of it is. And I guess here's my question. I just want to more clearly understand Steve's request. So if you take the no disturb line that intersects with Colby Farm Lane and you run that as the side yard lot line directly to the back, is that your proposal?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
And then leave the backyard the way it is, or are you suggesting that run back to that erosion control line?
What I was thinking was if you take the no disturb line to the back of the house, the proposed house, and then go make a straight line over to the whatever it is, the erosion control line.
Yeah.
And then everything to the back would be allowed for the homeowner to use. So they have a bit of a side yard and then a backyard that they can use.
So I think that, and Matt, you can address this. I think that's probably, I think we've done a little bit of shift in the numbers, but I don't think that's a huge change, and actually squares off the lot a little bit. And so I just wanted to follow up. We can ask the planning board for waivers for this lot size. The underlying district requires the 10,000, the overlay district requires a 10,000 square foot, but we can ask a waiver request so long as it, meets the intent of the ordinance. And I think obviously the preservation of and protection of the wetlands and the open space generally, I think that would be a reasonable request of a planning board. Matt, you can address the square footage there. Maybe I'm eyeballing that wrong.
So I got a little confused with the square footage. I know that we have a new lot line exhibit plan so where that erosion and control line is towards the development, that total lot area would be 8,045 square feet.
Yeah, I think that what Steve is suggesting is, Andy, do you have any control to take the line back as Steve suggested? If you take the no disturb line and you intersect it with Colby Farm Lane, and you
Yeah.
draw it back.
This is Andy. Sorry, normally I would mark up the plan as you're speaking. The author of the PDF seems to have prohibited markup, so I don't have the ability to do that myself right now.
I think though that thank you, Andy. I think that I understand what you're saying, and we need to do the calculation on it. But I think there's a bit of I think there's a trade-off, Matt, and we may end up with the same 8,452 square feet or thereabouts.
Sure.
Yeah.
So Steve, are you proposing basically going vertical from Colby Farm Lane straight up to the back?
No, what I was proposing was take the 25-foot no disturb line and follow that till you get to the back of the house, and then drawing a line over to the erosion control line, so that you're taking away some of their side yard, but leaving them, a significant backyard.
Yeah.
I might be comfortable with just taking from the Colby Farm Road and going vertical to you get all the way to the back. But there needs to be a clear way of marking what is theirs to use and what is not theirs to use.
Well, you might recall Matt and I didn't do the project, but it was David's project. Obviously, you did right across the street.
Right.
And the board didn't require this and having separate lots, but they did allow a demarcation of the wetlands by a fence and signage on the lot. So obviously, this would be a little more protection, but maybe towards the back you could have the fence. So across the street, you allowed the line to be within the lot. I think there's 2 or 3 of those lots. But I certainly understand what you're saying, and we can try to put something on there and run it by Julia, just make sure it's what you think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I understand what Steve is saying. But if you could sketch that out and let us take a look at it.
I'm just curious why the board's position has changed from across the street, where they allowed the demarcation to be within the lot. I'm not saying that the applicant's not.
Yeah, I think from my memory, I don't think that we really considered a comparison between, obviously we didn't know this project was coming when we were reviewing that project, but on that project, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was a little bit more dense in terms of how those units were laid out, and they had less yard to begin with and less lot size to begin with than what we're looking at here with this 10,000 square foot lot.
That's true. That's true.
So this seems to be a little bit more forgiving in terms of changing the size and shape of the lot.
Okay.
I would like to see what's proposed for the change of that lot line, and to make sure that there's no wetland as part of that single family. Is that single family going to be, I don't remember from the beginning whether that's going to be part of the whole condo association?
It will.
No. Did you say yes, Matt?
We would try to keep it out of that.
Yeah, I think the proposal is to have, because that's one of the reasons we tried to make it a standalone lot, is that it would actually be out of the condominium association and by itself. But we could, go ahead.
That makes it a lot more concerning to me than that they don't have any right or access to any part of the wetland.
Yeah.
Because they'll be handling their own landscaping and all that, and it's different when you've got a condo association that the landscapers know what's where with a single family dwelling, that it needs to be clearly delineated that it's not their land to mess with.
Can I speak up here? This is David Daly. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Julia,
sorry, on our meeting, I thought what we had talked about, and again, maybe there was confusion on our part, was we had talked about that the wetlands had intrusion into this area. We didn't want people to come out and violate the wetlands area, thinking it was their backyard. And what our intent was to put up a fence there to delineate that potentially. But when the issue came up, we wanted the board to weigh in, and obviously they have, whether or not we kept the 10,000 square feet, which was part of the overlay district requirement, or look for a waiver and shrunk the lot as Matt is kind of proposing, or the board, Steve is proposing here. So, I mean, if we have to make this part of the HOA, but one of the things we would propose potentially is to put a split rail fence along this new lot line or line of delineation separating the wetlands, so that's clearly demarcated, delineated, that there's no access past this stockade, past this split rail fence for any violation of that wetland buffer zone. And as discussed earlier, and not to go into too detail, there is what we discussed previously, was that there's already a violation of that buffer zone. We're doing that restoration area. What is currently proposed is much better than what is there now. That doesn't make us make it all right. We want to make it even better. That's why we propose a significant more restoration further up beyond this lot, so that they would have a better backyard than was originally proposed. And Juliet came up with some good ideas. I just think there's maybe some misinterpretation how that was going to be achieved. But we're open to shrinking the lot and defining it by the wetlands, or just putting up a fence to define it.
Yeah, I would feel a lot better if that lot was shrunk and the wetland area was added to lot 3.
Okay.
So it's
Andy,
not
could I email you a plan right now?
All right. Yeah, because
Huh?
when Matt, if you could email that to Andy, I don't know if he could pull
Yeah.
it up.
Yeah, I'll email Andy the plan right now.
We had come up with a proposed plan when Julia's comment, she sent an email the other day, and we just thought the best way to handle it was during tonight's meeting, to kind of, so everyone could review it and weigh in. Obviously, we knew it was of concern to everyone. We could hopefully, Andy could post this plan that we're hopefully can show you in a couple of minutes to kind of give you a better idea what we were thinking. As noted, we would require a waiver from the planning board due to the reduction of lot size from 10,000 square feet to about 8,400. Obviously, in discussions now and changing that along the 25-foot buffer line, that could further reduce, or even, again, looking at what we just, as you laid out, it might even be in and around that number anyways, of about 8,400 square feet.
This is Andy. So I'm awaiting that file. Working with the planning board, I can't anticipate that the planning board would have any issue with making a modification that would address an issue that the Conservation Commission has. So I wouldn't expect that to be a problem, the granting of that waiver. But of course, that's up to the board.
Okay.
All right, so Andy, I just sent you that plan.
Yeah, just one sec. I'll pull up it, assuming it comes through.
While we're waiting, the grassy area that is all fenced in, that is going to be open space for, I guess, is that just for the residents, or is that also public?
So I can address that. So that if you want to shift that over, let's call that the common area. So that's just for the residents.
Okay.
But the playground is obviously open to the public. The application exceeds the open space requirements under the ordinance. And because of the way the design exists for the layout of the cottages and a welcoming kind of common for them, and they can't really go back and use the lot 3 open space, obviously, that would be their open space. But then, and that's fenced in and has gates for them, but that the playground up front is going to be open for, obviously, the public.
Okay. What if you were to move the house on lot 1 to where the playground is, and move the playground over to lot 1? Then we don't have any issues.
Except for that you've got kids that are less controllable than a single family home on the wetlands. Also, there was a lot of time spent with the planning board kind of laying out the design and getting the houses that are in the rear. They're kind of described as the porches being the back, but actually those are the front. So those porches open up onto the front and would open up into that grassy area as a common for them.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
And
So this is the plan that I just sent you, Andy. This not exactly the one that Matt had, but shows, or maybe Matt and I sent the same one. But this shows the line that either David or Jonathan just drew on there to try to pick up that 25-foot no disturb line.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
so
what I was thinking of.
So that proposed edge of disturbance would be the new lot line that I'm showing there on the westerly side.
Oh, okay, that. I'm looking at the blue line.
Yeah, so that the black line, that's the more bold, it's the bold line, which says new proposed lot line is what I was proposing, which is that erosion control line.
Right. But this blue line is what we've just discussed. We're proposing now this new blue line be the new lot line.
Yes.
Correct.
Right. That's what Steve was saying, I think, is
Right.
what we were trying to capture.
This was
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too.
Sorry, we'd be open to this, the blue line.
Okay. The only change to the blue line that I would prefer is if it just went horizontal below that wetland flag. Back to
Where
the
the
other side.
30.5 is?
Yeah, well, the blue line goes all the way up to the back property line.
Yeah.
And just so long as it went off to the right, the 30.5 is fine unless you want a square lot, rectangular lot.
Yeah, that's better.
I would have no issue with that moving up. No, I kind of like that actually.
Yeah, so the question really is how much is that and what that distance is to the back. But you would be okay if it were pushed back a little bit further?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Go back further.
Just as we discussed, we just
don't really want it right on the wetland flag. We'd like to keep it off of that actual wetland line if possible.
I think where the blue line and the red line are good as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, that looks good to us too.
Yeah. And maybe that's where you put the stockade fence.
Perfect.
Or the split rail fence.
Split rail,
Sorry,
exactly.
it would be
Yeah,
a split
not
rail.
stockade, split rail fence, right.
I was gonna say, did you change your regs there?
No, that was me. Wrong verbiage.
So as proposed, the single family dwelling is not in the HOA. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I just, if we're talking about a stockade fence that eventually is going to fail, because they do, if it's in the HOA, then it's clear who's responsible. If it's a single family dwelling, I don't know how we as a commission enforce them to say, you have to repair that fence.
You put it.
Yeah,
deed restriction.
You can we can have a restriction, we can have a continuing condition, we can put it in the deed. I mean, we had similar things like that in other developments that we've done with the commission. So I think that some kind of language where right on the deed, and even we could disclose it obviously, that the split rail fence needs to be maintained because everything outside those lot lines are protected wetlands.
Yeah, we can put a special condition, a perpetual special condition in the order that would say that the split rail fence at the rear of lot 1 shall be maintained into perpetuity, something like that.
And Julia, we'd also demarcate that with some signage permanent signage on that split rail, reminding the owners that beyond that is not only that not their property, but it's preserved wetlands.
Protected open space for the city of Newburyport. Yeah, perfect.
Yes.
Something like that. Yeah.
So the fence would go along the blue line to the red line and then across the back. Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, as far as getting a variance for this, I'm a little confused how everybody's just assuming you can do it. I heard what you said, Andy, but it still doesn't meet the requirements.
Are you talking about a variance for the lot area, David?
Yes, I am.
So this is an OSRD development in the Colby Farm Overlay District. And the OSRD in section 14H allows the planning board to reduce the dimensional requirements of the lots, so long as they meet the purpose and intent of the OSRD.
Okay,
This
so
is
this is a
Andy.
different kind
This
of
is not the
case.
same as asking the ZBA for a variance.
Okay.
Okay, but you also need a variance from us for the small amount of grading that goes into the no disturb zone. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, they did provide all of the required variance request language within the notice of intent.
Okay, I got pretty tired reading stuff today.
There's a lot.
Heck, we gave it to you 2 months ago, Steve. What else have you been?
Well, you know, I've had a lot of free time to do other things.
So in the variance criteria, the overriding public interest that Matt put out, I want to be really clear. This, I know, Matt, do you want to go through it or do you want me to go through it?
It's up to you. You know, it's a narrative that speaks to the requirements of section 10. And, you know, do you want us to walk through it? I'll walk through it.
Lisa, you want to handle the public benefit?
Sure. So there's a number of public benefits. One is is redeveloping this high intensity use of this kind of truck farm that's kind of overgrown in the area, and removing that and restoring the area. So that's one of the larger, to a less intense use of the residential development that is all consolidated on the front of the property on the uplands. The proposal also creates a single family or a low income housing unit, which the Affordable Housing Trust is very excited because it's in part of the duplex and they like the location of it. It's going to clean and remove the debris and structures from the property, in addition to taking the intensity of the use off. We're going to improve the existing utilities and infrastructure within Colby Farm Lane, including extending the municipal water and improving the sewer infrastructure. There's some significant problems with the sewer line. In addition, they're going to repave Colby Farm Lane for about 610 feet from Low Street down to the development. It's going to incorporate a playground that will be a public playground, but be maintained by the homeowners association, similar to the Evergreen project. And that playground will be accessible. And we have been working with Lisa Reed on the design of that playground, but that is also served by those public parking spaces right out front, including a handicap parking space. The other thing is the preservation of over 6 acres of open space in the rear of the property, actually 6.11 acres out of the 7.64 acres. So it's in excess of the 80% required by the ordinance. So it kind of keeps all the development close to the street and helps preserve that back wetlands, pasture, uplands area that exists.
Lisa, did you say there's going to be a low-income housing unit?
Yeah, it's an affordable housing unit. It'll be, I don't know that it's low income, but it qualifies for the subsidizing housing inventory. I think it's an 80% unit. Is that right, David?
That's correct.
Yeah.
We did meet with the Affordable Housing Trust. They were very excited. That unit itself has a first floor bedroom that they really liked for ADA or assisted needs of a family member. So they really appreciated that fact, and they accepted it.
So it will be included on the subsidized housing inventory for the city and have a perpetual deed restriction.
Correct.
No, okay.
The parking spaces for the playground,
Yes.
where are they in relationship to the entrance to the trail on the other side of the street?
The trail, if you look at the trail entrance, is actually, you see the words edge of pavement. Well, actually, it's closer to across from the edge of the single family home lot. We just actually had a plan today because we were looking at a crosswalk in the area. Hang on a second.
I think was.
I can, Andy, I can send you that plan as well.
Sure.
Because I know when in the other development, we had talked about parking spaces right on Colby Farm Lane.
Well, those exist too.
Okay.
So these are additional parking spaces. So the Colby Farm Lane one does have parking spaces that they're parallel, but they're pulled off of Colby Farm Lane. And these obviously are perpendicular to Colby Farm Lane.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Andy, I have that sent to you just now.
Okay, I'll pull it up as soon as it comes through.
So we were looking at the Lise Reed and Andy and some other people in our tech review talked about a crosswalk from the Bashaw Farm development across the street to this development. And so we haven't located it yet, the crosswalk itself, but we were actually looking at a plan that shows both sides. But they could easily walk to it, Steve. It's not that far away.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering what the,
Yeah.
yeah, assuming they're out there for a walk, they can walk that little distance.
Yeah, it's certainly not that, it's not that far, a couple hundred feet.
Get that plan?
No, it hasn't come through yet. I'll put it up as soon as it does.
Okay.
It's got to go through our central server too, so there's a momentary delay.
Oh, I see. Andy, is there any tipping point at which a light would be put on Low Street from there? You know,
Yeah, actually, we had this discussion, like Lisa said, we had a discussion about crosswalk, not just on Colby Farm Lane, but also trying to improve the safety or crossing at that intersection with Low Street, just because the curvature of the roadway, there's not great visibility. I think you're going to see, it's not going to be easy to get a signal put there. It might be possible to have something like the Safe Routes to School type improvements. I think Joe or some of the commission members might be familiar with that project up on High Street that's starting up.
Oh, yeah.
But sort of a push button type thing, but not, full blown hawk style crossing.
Okay, I just thought about this one thing I saw up in, I think it was in Maine. They had some sort of detector, like a radar detector, that would tell you whether cars were coming in from which direction they were coming from. So, just for safety for people pulling out of Colby Farm Lane.
Yeah, and actually, I did raise this issue with the development team just because I know that the planning board will ask that question when this project is reviewed by them in greater detail tomorrow night. So.
What we did, Andy, regarding our project across the street, as you might be aware, and it did really help a lot if anyone's been down there. We cleared all the brush from that neighbor's lot, and then we took down that tree as well. So the pulling out of Colby Farm Lane is much easier now than it was. Now, at the end of the day, it's still there's still a bend in the road coming along there, but the viewpoint from pulling out has been improved greatly.
Yeah. Yeah, but the thing I saw was, it wasn't a light. It was just an indicator saying that a car was coming from the left or a car was coming from the right.
It's pretty, I haven't seen that. That's not a
Yeah.
bad idea.
It seems like a really simple thing to do.
Yeah.
So there you go, Steve. It's not, see,
Okay.
it's not that far.
No. So where were you thinking of putting a crosswalk?
Well, we had a couple because, you know, we're worried about kids. So there's fence around the playground.
Yeah.
So we kind of looked at the corner of the entrance to Bashaw and bring it directly over to the to the new development. It's hard. It would be to the left of that water line or drain line. Kind of like right beside that drain line and take us directly over to the playground.
Oh, there, yeah.
Okay, where's the drain line?
Right, crosses the street.
Oh,
See
okay.
that?
Overhead wire.
It would be kind of in that area without getting in the way of the parking.
That's an electric wire.
Sorry. I thought it said DW or yeah.
Same thing.
So that would be good if you, I mean, if you parked at the playground, then you'd have a crosswalk to get across the street.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
It does line up nicely with the parallel parking across the street, which we figured we could do about 6 cars in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, so what else?
That's all we have.
I've exhausted my comments.
It only took 45 minutes.
I
So,
should
would-
add to the related to public benefit. Currently, the project is completely untreated water going into the wetlands.
Oh, yeah.
And this project's going to be fully compliant with the Massachusetts stormwater regulations and the city of Newburyport stormwater regulations as well.
And I might add on that, I meant to say this, both Phil Christensen and John Eric White have signed off on the plan.
Yes, correct. I think the commissioners have received those review letters
Yeah.
as well. I just wanted to say that even though we've come to a lot of agreement here, I think everything is looking good. I don't know how the commission feels, but I do think that I would hesitate to close the hearing tonight until we get an actual revised plan. I know we got an email with the blue line on it, but I'd feel more comfortable just having a complete file with the new lot lines that are approved, and knowing that this still has to go through planning board. I think that there's time to do that.
Yeah, we would still need a new planting plan.
Right.
Yeah. So just for timing, do you meet again in 2 weeks?
Yes.
So if we got you a plan that's revised before next Tuesday, that would be okay for the following meeting?
That sounds fine to me if it's okay with the commissioners.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Do you think you can get planning board approval for this reduced lot size tomorrow night?
Well, we'll be able to at least ask them if they're, willing to do it. They won't give us a final sign off, I don't think. It would be great if we could, but I think that I don't mean, Andy, unless I'm totally missing something, it's totally in line with the purpose and intent of the OSRD. So I don't see any red flags.
We have lots across the street that are only 3,000 square feet. So.
Yeah, I would expect, an informal discussion with the planning board tomorrow night about that question, and I would expect the board to be in agreement primarily because it's a request coming from the commission, and as Lisa said, it's consistent with the OSRD, purposes. So I would not anticipate a problem with that.
Okay.
So we'll provide you revised plans before next Tuesday, and then we would ask for continuance to your next Concom meeting.
Right, that's May 19th.
Great.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, thank you, folks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you
Do you
very
want to
much.
ask for public comment before they go?
Is there any public comment? I am not. No one's raising their hand. I know there's somebody in on via phone.
Possible that that's for the next meeting.
Okay. Well, I haven't seen any. I don't know if anybody else sees anybody, but I don't.
Hearing's not closed.
Hi, this is Howard Snyder. I'm the landscape architect for the project. I'm the one that called in on the phone line.
Oh, okay.
But I think we're all set right now, right?
All right, then I guess we're all set. Okay, get a motion to continue to, what is it, the 19th?
So moved.
Second.
All right, roll call. Paul Healy,
Yes.
Steve Moore,
Yes.
Dan Warshall,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. All right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the next item is Holly McDonald, 468th Street, notice of intent. They have requested a continuance.
So
Yes,
moved.
they have. Yep.
To
So
the
moved.
next meeting?
Second.
Roll call. Paul Healy.
Yeah.
This is Andy. Through the chair, if I could just jump in for a second, just to make, recommend that the motion to continue be clear to the date and time and location. So,
Okay.
yeah, whatever date is your meeting again, I presume on Zoom. So,
We get a clarification of that motion.
Motion to continue to 5/19.
Second.
All right. Roll call. Paul Healy,
Yes.
Steve Moore,
Yes.
Dan Warshall,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right. Next item. Mark Drago, 3Q Street, notice of intent.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Bill Barrett. Good evening. I am here representing Mark Drago, the owner of the property. I'm going to give a brief description of the property and then we can talk about if you have any questions. The existing conditions on the house, on the property include a single family, 1 3/4 single family wood frame dwelling. There is a wood pile foundation existing under the dwelling. The other factors involved in the lot, according to a recent survey, is 4785. You can see it on the plan there. Existing home has 1,104 square feet under roof. It is on piles, however, the home is entirely skirted to the ground. The existing lot coverage is 1,520 square feet or 31.7%. Lot vegetation consists of a gravel driveway area, weed, scrub, and unmanicured lawn grass. The owners also own the property on the northern side of Q Street, kind of on the other side of that concrete wall. They have done a complete cleanup of that area, as well as planted about 200 square feet of dune grass in the area. The lot has concrete block structure shown on the plan that protects the area from storm surge and wave action. The lot is located in the FEMA flood zone VE. What they're proposing at this point in time, this project started out as a remodeling project of the existing structure. They were going to do new windows, siding, roofing, and some interior minor work. They have changed that at this point in time. They would like to do an additional square footage on the second floor of the lot. The new scope of work is to add that second floor over the portion of the existing structure. The living area the new living area will be located entirely above that structure. There will be several basement accesses that are located around the perimeter of the existing structure. Those will be eliminated, all but one. The existing fireplace chimney will increase from 4 square feet to 10 square feet. And that's of lot coverage. We'll be moving the rear exit door from the east wall to the west wall due to this action. That access will have a small platform step at approximately 18 square feet at its entrance. Previously, there was one of these basement accesses right underneath that new deck. That access has been removed, as well as the concrete wall that held it in place. There is sufficient gravel area within the lot to allow all construction activities to be limited to that area, thereby eliminating any possibility of degradation of the other areas. We'll be removing 300 square feet of concrete pad located between the existing house and the existing garage, and a small wood deck that's there. We'll be taking that completely out and expanding the pea stone area in its place. The only other ground level changes are removing the basement access, as I discussed, adding a platform for the entry door, and a slight increase to the fireplace size between the buildings. That's the work they're looking to have done, and I'll ask for your comments now.
Bill, can you tell me, is this going through zoning? Have you applied for a zoning variance for this yet?
We're up the end of this month.
And what is the access to the house right now? And is it going to change or become more accessible?
It's barely showing on that plan, but the two dotted lines heading towards P Street is an easement that was granted by the lot next door that allows access to that property. Q Street obviously is unbuilt at this point in time. In fact, you can see that the house next to us is built right across Q Street.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no access, whether walking or driving, to get down Q Street.
Andy, can you zoom out of this a little bit so I can see more of this plan? Yeah.
The lot owned by John Powers also uses that easement. It looks like it's 12 feet wide and then splits off right before it gets to the 3Q Street lot.
So the existing footprint of the house isn't changing any? Is that
Not at
correct?
all. With the exception of the items mentioned, the slight expansion in the fireplace, the step that's at the rear entrance of the house, and we were eliminating some of those accesses. There was accesses all over the place for the basement, and we removed going to remove all of those except for one.
Is there not also, Bill, is there not also a new sort of front porch area?
No.
It looks like it on the elevations, on the other drawings that you have provided that show the architectural plans, I guess it is. With the rear elevations, let's see, it would be on the west side elevation drawing. It shows porch and a pergola.
Pergola, yes, there's no porch.
It says porch on the plan.
On the
It says porch, and there's a column. There's a column extending up from the porch to this pergola, AZEC pergola.
Which plan are you looking at, Julie?
It's the west side elevation drawing number A5 on the Drago Residence Q Street. You submitted these elevation drawings and architectural plans.
Yeah, what you're looking at there is the existing as-built plans. So they are as it is currently constructed.
So
I don't. if
I
you
think
pull up the
so. This
roof
is the
line-
one that shows the new second floor addition, etc. This is the proposed. West side elevation I'm looking at. Asphalt shingle
There you
roof,
go.
architectural style.
All right, there's a little line under the AZAC pergola that says porch.
Yeah.
See, I'm still not seeing it. I see AZAC pergola. Oh, the porch. So there will not be any decking or anything there.
So
This goes
there is
right
no porch?
There's no room for anything except walk-in grade. The front door is about 3 inches of, the sill to the front door is about 3 to 4 inches above the existing grade. And we're not adding anything there. Those that, I don't know what that, you know what that, I don't know. The porch definitely doesn't belong there, the wording anyway. The columns will come down to post up that pergola, but other than that, it's not going to be porch area, and it's definitely not roofed area. It's all pergola.
So this is in the V zone, and it's a significant renovation and addition of square footage to the structure, not square footage to the footprint, but square footage and renovation to the structure in the V zone. I would like to see what the zoning board thinks about this, given the access restrictions and the V zone considerations and the additional living area being put into this particular structure. I would just like to see if this can get through zoning. That may not be what the commission would want to do here, but that's how I feel about it as the administrator.
Yeah, it is kind of, one of these, it's on the edge of what could be done.
I could add, this is Bill Barrett again. I could just say here that they have a legal easement to access the property. They obviously can't go down the public way that was provided for the lot. I don't think there can be a denial to do that work in the B zone or any other zone. I understand there's some rules and regulations, but I think the zoning board and the conservation are separate for good reason here. And we're asking for approval under DEP regulations. And zoning board, when we get to that point, we're going to have to address that too. But we'd like to address them separately. I don't see why they need to be tied together. We're having very little ground impact. In fact, we're improving on the situation by removing concrete or impervious areas of the concrete and the porch access or the basement accesses. So there is some improvements to existing conditions there as well.
So where you're removing the concrete, what are you gonna plant beach grass there or some other native
We're just
plants?
going to extend the pea stone into that area. It's between the house. It's between the house and the garage, so nothing else probably would be appropriate there. It's a common walkway as well between the driveway and getting back to the beach area.
Andy, can we go back to the plan which showed the house and the garage and all that?
Okay, so I see a step coming down from the house right on, just off of Q Street, and that's how you would get to, well, I
That's
guess,
how you get to the backyard. It's a second egress for the home.
okay. So that wooden deck is, the 100 square foot wooden deck is just a standalone structure.
It is, yeah. It's just sitting on the ground. Actually, we're actually going to remove that off to the side while we remove that concrete, because I think there's concrete under the deck as well. The plan is not to remove the deck completely, but to just pull it off to the side, just so we can see what happens underneath. What we're dealing with. There may very well be more concrete there.
More concrete under the deck there?
Under the deck, I think that's what we're going to find. Yes.
Yeah, I wonder if that would be enough to change the 50% increase in value. The extra cost. It's so close.
So is there any native vegetation at all on the property?
Not the property that's not this property. Across the street where they own part of the beach, that had some beach grass on it, but they've increased it quite a bit by adding around 200 square feet of beach grass to that area. A lot. It used to have a lot of those, those discs that came out of the treatment plants.
Oh, yeah.
He said he must have found 5,000 of those things there, as well as timber and stuff that came like rubbish that came out of people's garbage bags. It floats down river and ends up on top of this beach. But they've cleaned it up quite a bit to this point. And it really looks good out there. The dune grass is growing, and they plan on doing another 300 square feet of dune grass as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking that I don't know how much I'm wondering how much an approval by us would really color what the ZBA does. I'm not that familiar with those regulations.
I'm not quite sure if there's anything that, when it goes through zoning, could be changed that would impact our ruling.
This is Andy. I don't know if there's a more specific question you have, if you're looking for an idea as to whether or not the ZBA would approve something specific. Is it?
Yeah, if anything would be changed because of going to ZBA on the project itself. I just don't like getting in a situation where something would be going to another board that would change the plan and change what our ruling was.
Yeah, well, I mean, just to be clear, the applicant has the obligation to meet the requirements of both boards simultaneously. So if they don't get approval from the ZBA that matches your plans, they would have to come back to one of the boards to modify that. So they can't, the ZBA would not be able to override your conditions because that's your jurisdiction, and vice versa. You couldn't modify their jurisdiction. So the applicant has the onus to resolve those issues and come up with a set of plans that satisfy both the Conservation Commission regulations and the ZBA's.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that the Conservation Commission issues with this particular project are minor, given that they've been able to satisfy the 50% rule, however closely, then the additional, impacts to the site are really negligible in this case. I think the zoning board has more significant, there's more significant hurdles to overcome with zoning, which is why I felt like it might be best before the commission issues a permit to make sure that it can get through zoning. That's all.
Why would you have to wait though, Julie? I don't understand the reason for waiting. if I get denied or I get something changes, it's only then I come back to you and say, here's the changes.
Well,
and
I
you
think
need to-
just in my experience, that often the zoning board will say, or they will weigh whether or not the Conservation Commission has issued a permit. That will weigh into how they make their decision. And so as not to sway them and let them do their job based on zoning and not to have, appear to be in support of something for reasons that they might not understand.
Right. And the other thing is you would have to file another submission with us to get a modification, and we don't know whether it would be minor or what.
We're willing to do that. We're willing to do that. We'd like to get one step out of the way. I don't think the zoning board is going to be swayed one bit by Concom if they decide to, if they're going to follow their regulations, they're going to follow their regulations, and whether or not a conservation approves it, I think will be irrelevant on their end. I would expect that zoning, if I came to conservation after zoning, you would do the same thing. You're here to support the DEP regulations.
It is what it is. I think that the Conservation Commission issues on this project are minor. It seems to meet all the regulations. So it's not that the commission can't go ahead and issue an order of conditions if that's what they agree to. It's just I was just throwing it out there that oftentimes we do wait till zoning, if something gets through zoning, if it looks like it might not get, if there are significant zoning issues with the project, we have in the past asked that the zoning review take place first so that we can understand that what the commission is approving is an approvable project. That's all. But in this case, if it seems like it makes sense to, make a decision about the project now, that's fine, and that's up to the commission.
Excuse me.
Okay. Well, do we have anything else on this then? All right.
We just ask that the board issue, at this time, close the hearing and issue a decision.
Okay. Do we have anything from the public? I do not see anybody. Okay, what do we want to do?
I guess as long as the applicant realizes that if zoning denies them or makes significant changes or any changes to the plan, they have to come back before us, with a new filing. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay. Paul Healy,
Yeah.
Steve Moore,
Yeah.
Dan Warshall,
Yes.
David Vine.
Yes.
I will vote yes as well. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And have a good night.
Thank you.
You as well. Okay. Can I get a motion to close the public hearings?
So moved.
Second.
Paul Healy,
Yes.
Steve Moore,
Yes.
Dan Warshall,
Yes.
David Vine.
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Okay. On to, we have nothing for enforcement tonight. So on to orders of the conditions.
Before we leave that, Julia, did you
get to visit the site or have DPS fly over it with the drone or?
Yeah, I've been out there. It's, you know, it's right on the water. There's a seawall in front of there. It's in an area off of Plum Island Point. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking of the Doe Run thing.
Oh, Doe Run. Oh, sorry. No, I haven't been able to get out there. I'm sorry.
I am recused, Gretchen.
Okay, now you can go on to the other enforcement that I didn't know about.
What's the other enforcement?
The one you were just talking about, water or?
Oh, no, I was just talking about whether or not I thought you were asking if I'd been out to Q Street.
Oh, no.
Okay. All right. On to orders of conditions. Number one is Paul Hogg, Harbor Master, Northern Boulevard, Plum Island Point.
Yeah, I don't have any special conditions that I heard you all mention. And given that it's on an existing paved parking lot, even some of our standard Plum Island special conditions don't necessarily apply. So I think this is a pretty straightforward order of conditions.
Yeah, I would agree. Motion to issue an order of conditions.
Second.
Make sure you can still hear me, right? I'm off of this. Okay. Paul Healy?
Yeah.
Steve Moore?
Yes.
Dan Warshall?
Yes.
David Vine?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. I like how fast the signature pages go in these.
You don't have to worry about me forgetting to hand it out.
And how are we handling all that?
I could show you a picture. I have a copy of it's an electronic signature form that we put together based on an example that was sent to us by the state. Essentially, it follows sort of the format of our orders of conditions and determinations, special conditions pages, so that it kind of flows with our existing permitting style. And then it just has a note that says the below and something like the below signature, but the below names imply intent to sign the foregoing document. And then there's a date, and it's each of your names. Everyone who voted yes, names goes on a line with an X.
Leah, did you want to feel free to pull up that form if you want?
Yeah, I'll pull it up. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if I can find it. Hold on.
So we're not going to do anything, correct?
You don't have to do anything. I'm going to do this based on the vote at the meeting. And let's see. All right. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Can you see this?
Not yet.
Not yet. All right, let me figure out how to share my screen here. Hold on. All right, share screen.
Are you having is there any sort of issue you're having, or?
It's just that I didn't have it on. I'm just going to share my regular screen, and then I'm just going to open up here. Here we go. Sorry, that's not it. Those are my notes. Here it is. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so this is the electronic signature page. This one would be for an order of conditions. I would insert the address here. This is what the front page of our special conditions that we attach to every order of conditions also looks like. So it sort of fits with that format. The address goes in, the DEP file number, the hearing date, applicant, owner, location, etc. Well, the short project description, in case it ever gets sort of separated from the document, we'll be able to put it back with the right document. And then we say the names typed below represent the intent to sign the foregoing document. And I would put everyone's name who voted for the project. And down here, the date that it was signed. And that gets inserted into the order of conditions adjacent to the old signature page. And we did this for several of the orders of conditions that were issued at the last meeting. And so far, we haven't had any issues with the registry not accepting it. And again, this follows a format that was given to us by the state.
Okay. Do you delete the blank lines?
Yeah, no, so what happens is that actually your names get typed sort of over this black line so that it
Yeah.
looks like a little bit more like a signature somehow.
Well, it doesn't look like my signature because you can read it.
Exactly. Right, all of yours. People will actually know who it was who signed these documents in the future.
It seems to me like the date signed should be date approved, but I'm not going to nitpick on that.
No.
Well, I did date signed because on the, well, I guess that's the same as the public hearing date, but it matches better with the actual signature page in the orders of conditions.
All right.
And then I still fill out all of the other dates and like, required information on that original signature page. And this is really just attached to it just for the names and the vote.
Okay. Alrighty then. That's one down.
Yep.
Next one is George Hasseltine, Windward Shaw, 149 State Street, notice of intent.
Yep. So for this one, we did come up with several special conditions in addition to our standard. The first is that prior to start of work, the designated licensed site professional shall provide a report outlining the activity and use limitation, conditions and restrictions for the site, and associated work plan for management of soils. That was one. Oh, it's good. And let's see. Then the next one is all work shall be done in accordance with the activity and use limitation and under the direction of a licensed site professional. And finally, a silt fence shall be installed behind the proposed silt sock on erosion control plan to better delineate the work zone and protect the adjacent wetland.
Yeah.
I think on that first one, we also wanted them to come in and explain it to us.
Yeah, that's the way I
Yeah.
read.
Oh, right.
I
Yes.
just, maybe I didn't write it down that way. Let's see. Yeah, so it should say that prior to the start of work, the designated licensed site professional shall provide a report and presentation to the commission for review and approval,
Yeah.
outlining the activity and use limitation, conditions, restrictions for the site, and associated work plan for management of soil. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the third one? I'm sorry. The,
Third one was about the erosion control plan should be modified to include a silt fence to be installed behind the silt sock to better delineate the work zone and protect adjacent wetland.
Okay. Motion to issue an order of conditions with those special conditions.
Second.
Okay, Paul Healy,
Yes.
Steve Moore,
Yes.
Dan Warshall,
Yes.
David Vine,
yes.
and I vote yes. Alrighty. Next one. Dan Mortel, Mass DCR, 0 Curzon Road Mill, Maudsley Flowering Pond, notice of intent.
Okay, this one, actually, the only special condition that I wrote down was the condition that all other state and federal permits and approvals shall be completed and forwarded to the Conservation Commission prior to the start of work.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hate to bring this up, but were we supposed to have voted on a request for the variance on that one?
Yes.
Probably.
That's why I hate to bring it up, but
However, I think that could be done at the next meeting. If we put it on the agenda. I mean, although we closed the public hearing.
just forget I said it.
Well, no, we have to vote on it anyways.
Yeah.
Andy, what do you think?
If it's something substantive, obviously it's something that should be done. I mean, I guess it depends on what the content is that you're referring to. You'd like to insert now. Is it substantive conditions or?
No, Andy, it would just be the vote on the variance. They requested a variance in addition to the order meeting and order of conditions. They need a variance because they're working within the 25 foot and within the wetland areas, etc.
Right,
So,
but the commission has already approved it, right? So,
yeah.
so I guess what I would say with that is, it seems as if substantively the commission's already approved or granted that variance.
So by default, by issuing the order of conditions, they've granted the variance.
Yeah, based on the plans that call for that need for the variance. So I would suggest just capturing that in the written decision.
Okay. I can do that.
But
I
if
can
there's something
still.
beyond,
Yeah,
if there's something
I can.
beyond that,
Yeah, I can still write up the. I mean, I guess we can also say that we can assume that there were no concerns with the request for variance, given that that didn't come up and they still closed the public hearing. So therefore, the request for the variance as presented by the applicant can be incorporated into the findings that we would provide with the variance that I would issue. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Just for the night, I'd say.
Yeah. All right, so let's call it that.
The only, I don't know if it was a special condition or not, but there was, like the construction plan was going to start in the fall. If they go too far into the fall, then my concerns with the amphibians increase.
Yeah.
Do you want to put a time restriction whereby they would have to come back to us with a plan to address amphibian, health and safety?
Yeah, yeah. If they haven't gotten started by November 1st, then
Okay.
Is that the normal cutoff time for?
I have no idea.
Yeah, me neither.
Well, he seemed to think that it would be a 2-month project, and I thought he said he wanted to start in the beginning of September.
Well, they wanted to start early fall, but given the state's current budget.
Yeah, I know.
Concerns,
Yeah, so couldn't we put in a special condition that if the work appears not to be able to be completed by November 1st, to come see us?
Well, I don't know that it needs to be completed. They just need to finish, replacing that pipe.
Yeah.
And then they can, the other way, and then they.
He said that that's the way they would approach it. He said, "I'm going to get into the contractor's ways and means," but that would seem reasonable.
Would you want to say something like, if the water levels in the impoundment of the flowering pond have not been restored substantially by November 1st, then a plan for protection of amphibians shall be prepared and presented to the commission?
Sure.
That'd be fine. Maybe even a letter from a certified herpetologist or something.
Which I suggested 6 months ago.
Okay. Okay. So let's see, if water levels in flowering pond have not been restored to original levels by November 1st, then a plan for protection of amphibians prepared by a certified herpetologist shall be presented to the commission for review and approval.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay.
Motion to issue order of conditions with those special conditions.
Second.
Paul Healy?
Yes.
Steve Moore?
Yes.
Dan Warshall?
Yes.
David Vine?
Yes.
I vote yes. All righty. On to Gregory Elliott and Candace McMahon, 1254th Street, notice of intent for order of
Okay.
conditions.
On this one, there's a special condition that, let's see, what is it? An elevation plan showing lowest horizontal, blah, 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 blah. Okay, prior to start of work, the applicant shall provide an elevation plan showing that the lowest horizontal member is at or above elevation 11.
Or should we make it just that before issuance of the order of conditions?
Okay, yep,
Because it sounded like they could have that the next day.
yeah. So before issuance of the order of conditions, the applicant shall submit an elevation plan showing lowest horizontal member at or above elevation 11.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure I get that. Aren't we doing the issuance of the order of conditions right now?
Well, no, so I think what we've done in the past is if it's something like a plan just needs to be submitted that they can do, tomorrow or whatever, that they want to close the hearing and have you vote on the order of conditions and get that all finalized so that it can be issued as soon as possible. Then what happens is I prepare the document, they send me the plan, I incorporate it into the file and into the order, and then it gets issued. So it's just a sort of almost like a technicality, but it gets put into the order of conditions as an actual condition.
But you're just making it very clear to them that if they don't.
Yeah.
So that it can't slip through the cracks.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's all I had on 54th Street.
In motion?
Motion to issue order of conditions with that special condition.
Second.
Paul Healy,
Yes.
Steve Moore,
Yes.
Dan Warshaw,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes.
and I vote yes. And last but not least, Mark Drago, 3Q Street, order of conditions.
Okay, I don't have any special conditions on this one because again, it was pretty minor in terms of any impacts. There's no vegetation mitigation or anything like that proposed. So no monitoring.
Yeah.
What if we just strengthen the fact that if, it's still the way it is, but if it's just strengthened it saying any changes by any other boards will be immediately or should be addressed, relayed to the conservation.
Yeah, or I actually wouldn't mind seeing something related to this 50% rule, because they are literally at the dollar of 50% of an increase, and he had to actually revise his appraisals like twice just to get it to be 50%. So they're doing a big project, and they've just done a lot of paperwork to get it to be below 50%. I would like to see something that says maybe, if any changes to the plans are made, that the 50% rule shall be revisited, or additional updated appraisals shall be required to ensure that the project remains below the 50% threshold for significant improvement.
That sounds good.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yep.
Motion to issue order of conditions with that special condition.
Second.
Paul Healy,
Yes.
Steve Moore,
Yes.
Dan Warshaw,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Well, we got it done before 11 o'clock.
Whoa, very good.
So I got one question, Julie. The two people that the mayor approved for new members, who were they?
Yeah. It's Jane. What was is her last name Smiley, or am I saying that wrong?
Okay. She was the lawyer?
Yes. And then we've got, yeah, she's a lawyer with some good Conservation Commission experience. And then we've got other name, I can't remember off the top of my head, and I don't have her email open. It was a man with the last name that began with a D, DeCola.
Okay, yep.
Someone named DeCola, who has a lot of like environmental health and safety kind of experience. So he's been involved in like a lot of remediation site work and things like that, as well as being sort of an avid outdoors person and involved in a lot of volunteer stuff too. So both seemed like they'd be great additions. I don't, we can't replace Doug and certainly also not Dan, but I think that these will be great new members.
And what would the schedule be as far as them being approved and so forth?
Well, that's a great question. And I'm not really sure how that works. I know it has to go through the city council. So I believe it has to go through the city council. Mayor has interviewed them at this point, both of them, and has all of their, resumes that she can forward to the city council. So it's just a matter of what their schedule is for handling that and then getting them on board afterwards for the, an upcoming meeting.
I think it requires 2 readings in front of the council, and it might be nice if we could only have 1.
You're right, I know.
I know they have ways of, I think, cutting it short and doing a special, like doing 2 readings in one night.
This is Andy. The city council did recently approve some appointments in a single reading. They can waive their rules and approve in a single reading. And you might just, if you're interested in that, which I think is a good idea. I'm frankly never been keen on the 2 votes. I think it's just extra bureaucratic process. But you might want to just request to the city council and or the mayor that they put in a request for expedited single reading on that.
Would I put a request to Jared on that?
Actually, what I would suggest is the chair of the Planning and Development Committee, Heather Shand, and CC Jared, copy Jared as the council president.
Okay.
Typically, it will go to the city council and then it'd be referred to the Planning and Development Committee. So I think by submitting the request to the committee chair, the Planning and Development Committee could then, if they so wish, and I don't see any reason why they wouldn't, they could recommend to the full council approval of the appointment in 1 reading, but that's up to them.
Okay, I'll send something to Heather and Jared tomorrow requesting that. Well, actually, do we know that she's submitted them yet?
Yeah, I guess I would say with that is,
Yeah.
I think it's important to just confirm she's on the council docket first. The appointments are in the council docket before you make the request for 1 reading.
That's a really good point because I'm not sure that they are. Again, she just was getting to this like end of last week. So it's possible that she's just been too busy to forward those to the council yet.
Okay, no, I've been checking the last couple of them because I get them sent to me and I have not seen either of them.
Yeah.
Is a council meeting every month now?
I don't know. Do you know, Andy? Good question. I'm not sure.
The council's meeting on an every 2-week basis. They've been having a bunch of other committee meetings, obviously, and it's not been quite as full meetings as they would normally have in the chambers, but they have been meeting every 2 weeks
Okay,
online via Zoom.
Okay, well, I'll check and look for the submissions and all.
Yeah, they usually post the packet for the meeting the following week, like at the end of the week, maybe Thursday. They should have the packet posted online. Once the name has been submitted by the mayor, then it makes sense to ask for an expedited appointment if you're interested in getting that seat filled quickly.
Yeah, I do get the email notifications that their packet has been
right
been uploaded. So
right.
Did they meet this week?
It was actually last week that they met.
Oh, okay. So we'll probably get something this week.
Yeah, exactly. There's actually a meeting coming up for the 11th this week, so it's possible. I mean, Julie could check with the mayor, but it could be that the name is going in for the meeting on the 11th this coming Monday. But Rich Jones handles that packet preparation, and they're usually doing it essentially in time frame. They're usually doing it tomorrow, Wednesday, or Thursday. That's usually the time frame when they finish up the packet.
Okay, all right. I will look into it. Okay, we got anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I just want to say a couple things. First, congratulations, because we crushed this meeting. I thought this was going to go way longer and be much harder, and it was great. And so thanks for hanging in there, everybody. And thank you, Andy, so much for helping us out with this. It was really helpful.
Steve, did you take notes on how to make a meeting shorter?
No.
All right. We'll take a roll call now. Paul Healy,
Yes.
Steve Moore,
Yes.
Dan Warshall,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes.
and I vote yes too.
Okay.
Thanks, folks.
Okay, good night.
Night.
Sleep well.
Hey, before everybody goes, with Paul, did Paul go already?
Yeah, no, I hear.
Blair, we need to get you into the panelist list. Any idea why you didn't end up?
No, because it was very strange. Well, first I tried to call in or connect in at 6:30, but we had lost, at 6:29, we had lost internet connection. And got it back just about 7. But then, everything was all different. You know, like I couldn't really do anything or see.
Yeah, you
anything.
were in the attendees area. You're in the attendees area. You're not in the panelist area.
Yeah.
Paul, as the moderator, I've seen some of these issues before, so it might be that you logged in with the city calendar link for the general public as opposed to the link that was sent to you via email as a panelist.
Boy.
Remember the email? It was
I don't know. I used some link from one of those emails, but maybe that was it.
I can have the invitation email resent to you, but again, just a reminder to all commission members, the idea is that you've clicked on the link in your email invitations that were sent to you individually. Each one of them is unique, so that you can be a panelist during the meeting. So I think the reason, Paul, you ended up in the attendees list is just because you might have clicked on the generic.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Thanks.
Let me know if you need that email resent for the invitation, but it's the same one that was sent to you, previously.
Yeah. Okay. I know I've seen that one. So if I don't see it, I'll let you know.
Okay. Yeah. And I'll look for you next time too, Paul.
Okay.
Earlier on.
Okay. You take good care.
All right. Good night, folks.
Good night.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Hey.